Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for being here. Today is Tuesday, May 24th, and I'd like to go ahead and have a roll call to establish quorum, please.
Ms. Shaw? Ms. Counts?
They are on. They were, are they on? Are they not here? Maybe? Okay, do you want to try again? Can we try again, Yolanda, please?
Ms. Shaw?
Here.
Ms. Counts?
Here.
Ms. Luna Rose?
Here.
Dr. Ravi?
Here.
Ms. Grijalva?
Here, thank you. And so we have Ms. Counts and Ms. Shaw joining us via Zoom. Unfortunately, we won't be able to see them, but they will be able to vote and participate. And then Ms. Shaw and Ms. Counts, whenever you want to speak, just feel free to call on me, or you can text me. I'll have my phone here, and then I'll call on you right after. And so we're calling this meeting to order, and I'd like to start with the land acknowledgement. And I think this is the first time we've had a student in person. So thank you for being here. This is Isaiah H. Whitehorse. He is in 8th grade at Marybelle McCorkle. He enjoys playing video games and playing the guitar. He has 7 siblings, and he is going to be a freshman next year at Pueblo in the academy. So whenever you are ready, sir.
On behalf of the governing board of Tucson Unified School District, I, Isaiah H. Whitehorse, acknowledge that the schools, buildings, and facilities of the Tucson Unified School District reside on the ancestral homeland of the Hana'atam Nation and the federally recognized tribal land of the Pasco Yaqui tribe.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here, Isaiah, and to your parents, thank you for bringing them. It's great to have you here in person. Thank you. And so we'll go ahead and go with the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Ravi, would you like to lead us, please? Thanks. Oh, there's students in the Zoom. I apologize. I don't have that information. Oh, I do. I'm sorry, Dr. Ravi. I'm going to have to take that away from you, and we'll do it. So let's see. Tessa. I'm sorry, I couldn't see the screen until now. Tessa, are you there? Hi, Tessa. And Tessa's like, I'm joining you to read the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. So let me say a little about you. You are in 5th grade. You attend Bloom Elementary. Tessa is a native Tucsonan. She is in the dual language Spanish immersion program at Bloom Elementary. Tessa has 1 sister and 2 brothers, 2 turtles, 2 cats, and 2 dogs. She enjoys drawing and painting and playing soccer, and she is also in the Bloom Orchestra and plays the flute. Tessa entered the two-way dual language program at Bloom when it was a pilot school, and will be one of the first 10 bilingual students to ever promote to middle school from Bloom. Well, thank you for joining us, Tessa. And if you know the pledge in Spanish, feel free to say it that way too. Thank you.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Juro fidelidad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos.
Thank you so much, Tessa. We really appreciate you joining us. Have a great rest of, you only have 2 days left of school. So enjoy the last 2 days there at Bloom. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. That was nice. Okay, Dr. Trujillo, agenda adjustments. Do we have any?
President Grijalva, board members, we have no agenda adjustments this evening.
Okay, thank you. Now we're on awards and recognition. Actually, if I can take a moment of personal privilege, as I was driving here and I was listening to the news, I heard of the tragedy in Uvalde School District, 18 children and 3 adults died because of a shooter that went on their campus. This is on Robb Elementary, so it's one of the Uvalde school district's elementary schools. It teaches 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade students. And so they had 535 students and have lost people on their campus because someone came on with a gun. I know that this is not the forum to talk about the right to bear arms, but in driving to a school board meeting and to have to hear of the tragedy that another school district is going through, it is just heartbreaking and tragic, and we have to do something to ensure that guns stay out of hands of people that do not respect them, do not respect the right to have them, and we need to do something in our country. So I'd like to ask for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Dr. Trujillo.
Yes, President Grijalva, members of the governing board, even before today's national tragedy, our week got off to a tragic start here in the Tucson Unified community as we lost one of our longtime administrative leaders and one of the foremost math educators in the district. Melissa Hall was the principal at Catalina High School, where she served this year. But through her 26 years of service to the Tucson Unified School District, she touched the lives of countless students as a math teacher, as a math educator, as a professional development academic trainer, teaching teachers how to be more effective and how to connect with kids and how to share her love of math with the young people that she served. She served at Choya proudly as a math teacher and as a math department chairperson before her first foray into administration as assistant principal at Catalina High School, where she served with pride for many, many years before having an opportunity this past year to serve as the interim principal for Catalina High School. Our hearts are sad, our eyes are full of tears, and our best wishes go to the Hall family and to the TUSD administrative community and to the Catalina community who loved Melissa Hall. And we wish her and her family nothing but peace and the comfort of the cherished memory of the daughter that they loved and lost. She is survived by her parents and her brother, and our condolences go to her family at this time. I'd also like to ask for a moment of silence and observance of our fallen administrative leader. Thank you. And now, the normally scheduled awards and recognitions. The most wonderful part of the work that we do here in TUSD, obviously, is celebrating the achievements of our students and staff. First up, Natalie Moreno, student at Carrillo. She is the winner of the Magnet Schools of America poster contest. Oh, I'm sorry, second place. We're honoring her for second place. So we're going to congratulate her for her second place finish in the elementary division of the Magnet Schools of America student poster contest winner. You can see that beautiful mosaic created by Natalie. Applause. Absolutely wonderful job, and proud to have her here at TUSD. Our next recognition, we're going to recognize an outstanding student from the Myers-Ganong community. Zoe Friesen, Myers-Ganong Elementary student, won first place at the Tucson Regional Braille Challenge for the sophomore group. The challenge consisted of 4 categories: reading comprehension, proofreading, charts and graphs, for measurements of speed and accuracy. Zoe's teachers, Miss Jennifer Fisher, described Zoe as a great student who works hard and advocates for others. Congratulations, Zoe. We are so proud of you and your representation of the Mustang community. Congratulations again, Zoe Friesen. Give her a round of applause. Absolutely. Our next recognition is one of our outstanding culinary arts programs represented here this evening out at Santa Rita. I know that our administrative team, we've enjoyed many delicious meals when we do our retreats and off-site working sessions out there at Santa Rita, thanks to the Santa Rita Culinary Arts team. So congratulate them. The students recently earned an award from the Careers Through Culinary Arts program known as CCAP, along with their teacher, Carrie Haflinger, at the CCAP Arizona 30th Annual Awards Breakfast. Carlos Lagarda, CCAP senior finalist, was awarded the $5,000 Brownstone Family Foundation Scholarship. Also recognized was Ajane Marchbank, also a CCAP junior finalist. Careers Through Culinary Arts program, it is a workforce development nonprofit that provides underserved teens a pathway to success through the culinary arts career pathway. So congratulations to our students in the Santa Rita Culinary Arts program. Let's give them a round of applause as well. Let us recognize the Rincon High University High School baseball team for being selected for the AIA's Conference Sportsmanship Award. This award is presented annually to the team that exhibits the highest level of sportsmanship on and off the field. Congratulations to Rincon University High School baseballers for this distinction. How about a round of applause for them? And it looks like the SaberCats are champions again. We've got our own dynasty over there at Sabino. The softball team, the Lady SaberCats, one more time have captured the 3A state crown. They were also selected, in addition to being state champions, as a 3A Conference Sportsmanship Award. This award, of course, is handed out annually in each conference to a team that exhibits the highest level of sportsmanship, as voted on by the officials. Congratulations to the Lady SaberCats for another state championship. I believe this is the third in 5 years for the SaberCat ladies softball program, and of course, showing us that they are champions and exceptionally respectful on and off the field, and that validated by the 3A Conference Sportsmanship Award. So let's give a round of applause for the Lady SaberCats. And a very special recognition this evening for the heroic actions of one of our employees, Jean Dugan at Peter Howell. Thank you, Ms. Dugan, who's been with TUSD for 21 years, 11 of those years at Peter Howell. She is an exceptional education paraprofessional, and one day found herself monitoring the cafeteria when on the playground a third grade student began choking on his food and was unable to breathe. Our hero sprung quickly into action and performed the Heimlich maneuver successfully, which of course revived our student and led to the happy ending of a healthy, happy, and safe student there at Peter Howell. We honor you and we thank you for your quick action, and these are the actions of a heroic employee that we take the time to appreciate now. How about a round of applause for Jean Dugan out there at Peter Howell? Let us recognize an outstanding teacher from the Maldonado Elementary community. Robbie Ramirez, the Arizona Diamondbacks Foundation, has recognized her through its DBAC's Most Valuable Teachers Award. Our teacher from Maldonado Elementary was selected for the month of April. We've had an opportunity to recognize her here tonight. She'll receive a $1,000 grant for classroom supplies, and she took part in an on-field pregame recognition several weeks ago. The colleague that nominated her, Angela Lopez, wrote touchingly, "Ever since she got here, she has worked so hard to try to bring improvements to our school. Recently, she created a STEM lab at our school. With the help of grants, she was able to get the materials to create a space for our students to learn and express their imagination. Even through the pandemic, she was able to work on this project and transform the room with her own two hands. She came in with a drill and assembled the room herself. Our students are so excited to use the new materials for robotics, for 3D printers, a STEM reading area, and engineering materials. This is a great room dedicated to STEM, science, technology, education, and math, where classrooms can come in and utilize the materials. Our students are so excited to get started and so proud of our principal's hard work. So congratulations again, Ms. Ramirez, for all of your hard work out there at the Maldonado community. Thank you. And we have a champion here that we would like to recognize here for her victory. She recently captured the Arizona Interscholastic Association Division I Girls Single State Championship. And we are so proud of her victory and the way that she has represented our district and the UHS community. We want to recognize the champ, the state champ, Tanvi Narendran out of University High School. She beat last year's state champ, Savannah Kolk from Desert Mountain, straight sets, 6-2, 6-1, after surviving an epic 2-hour and 45-minute Final Four semifinal match to make it into the final. Tanvi has signed with the University of Arizona tennis team, so she will stay right here in Tucson and be a part of U of A's tennis program. So congratulations, Tanvi. Let's give her a hand for her victory. And I'd like to invite our champ to come on up, say a few words.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I just want to say thank you all to the TUSD Governing Board and Dr. Trujillo for honoring me. Really means a lot. Thank you to my own school, UHS, and my parents, my coaches, everyone who helped me achieve this. And really, this means a lot to me because UHS is very academically oriented, and I want to thank UHS and TUSD for giving me that balance in my life, which I believe has helped me to excel in both academics and athletics.
Congratulations. So amazing.
And if it's not too much trouble, let's
no, of
ask
course
for a picture. And then we will also, after this picture, we'll ask Ms. Ramirez to come up for her picture as well. Come on. And that concludes our recognitions.
Okay. We're going to move on to call to the audience. ¿Hay alguien que necesita los servicios de un intérprete? ¿Tenemos alguien aquí que te pueda asistir? Okay. Yeah. Okay. You want to do that? I'm sorry. We're doing board member activity reports and then call to the audience. I jumped ahead because I was worried that I was going to forget announcing the interpreter again. Okay. Board member activity reports. Who would like to start?
Oh, can you hear me? Yes, okay.
Okay.
Thank
Ms.
you,
Rose.
Ms. Grijalva. Good evening, everybody. I want to say thank you for coming to the board meeting tonight. I know we've got 2 days left of school, so everybody's itching to get summer vacation, so thank you for being here this evening. And speaking of, it was a really busy May, and I actually just wrote out a list here, places I went. So I'll just start from the beginning of the month. I was invited to be a guest at Utterback Middle School. Congressman Grijalva was there speaking to the 8th grade about what he does in his life as a member of Congress and chairman of the Natural Resources Committee. And they all had very great questions, and he answered them honestly and somewhat a little bit longly. But that was fun, and I appreciate being invited by Ms. Sanders and Mr. Rodriguez, so thank you for the invitation. Same day, I also took a tour of Pueblo High School, Ms. Grijalva's alma mater, and got to see what is happening at Pueblo besides the new library and the turf being put in the courtyard and the plans that Mr. R has for his school. It was a fun tour. I was there during the school day, so I got to see the kids walk around. And if Pueblo is one of our many high schools that are just amazing. So again, thank you, Mr. R, for your time there. And later that day, and I do believe Dr. Trujillo was there for Mission View, received a check from Tucson Scrap Iron and Metal for the $100,000 scholarship fund for the 4th graders there through Pima Community College and through the foundation over at the Jewish Federation. So appreciate that. Also attended with Ms. Shaw and Dr. Trujillo, the Legacy of Excellence at Star Pass, and honored 10 to 12 students there going off to college, and they've got scholarships. That was a really fun event, and I look forward to going to next year. Ms. Grijalva and I were over at Catalina a couple days later with the Asian Pacific American Student Recognition. We had some student dancers, both traditional and a step. So I was happy to be there. And lastly, attended this past Saturday the Native American Student Services Recognition at Choya. If you have not been there, while all these student recognitions are beautiful, Native American students are encouraged to wear their Native attire, and it was a really amazing event, and thoroughly enjoyed my time there as well. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Tomorrow, I will be attending the graduation ceremony for Mary Meredith, and if you're not familiar, it's the building right behind us. We have one student graduating there, so I'm excited to be that. Tomorrow night, I will be at Rincon and my alma mater, and Thursday, I will be at Sabino. And that's what I've got.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Ravi.
Thank you, President Grijalva. Had a great opportunity this last few weeks to also visit some of our campuses around TUSD. I was able to make it out to Oyama Elementary School and discuss learning gardens and the needs of the Oyama community out there in our southwest side. I was able to, for the first time, make it over to Sam Hughes Elementary School, and one of the things I loved touring Sam Hughes was seeing the nature programs that they had using their own courtyard and what they had set up to teach nature and science right there, and that was just pretty cool to see that amongst the elementary schools, students there. I was able to join the Roberts Naylor K-8 community for their career day. Had an opportunity to interview and be interviewed by some brilliant 8th graders as they prepared for the careers ahead going into high school. I was able to attend a really fabulous drag show with my children at Tucson High Magnet School, where I joined over 250 individuals in our community to celebrate and support our queer youth in our communities. That was an amazing experience there. I joined Paskayaki tribal leaders at Borton Magnet Elementary School to unveil a gorgeous symbol of partnership between TUSD and our tribal communities on the electronic marquee right off 22nd Street, and Dr. Trujillo and Ms. Grijalva was able to be there as well. And then make it over to Maribel McCorkle Academy of Excellence to tour with the student council leaders and saw students engaged in some amazing project-based learning throughout the campus there. So it was really great to see that experience and what they're doing in an innovative way in Maribel McCorkle. Finally, this week, excited to make it out to Choya High School to celebrate graduations with the students, families, teachers, and staff, and Project More on Thursday. So excited about that this week.
Okay, Ms. Counts or Ms. Shaw, if you'd like to me to call on you, just let me know. So I attended the Tucson International Mariachi Conference as a parent volunteer, and the most fun, I think, was the student showcase where so many mariachis and folklorico dance groups from our schools, Ross Scrooge, Davis, we just had so many, at Pueblo, we had so many students there, Tucson High, and the bulk of the students were from TUSD, and I think they really represented our school district really well. I was at the dedication of the Linda Ronstadt Music Hall and Mariachi Aslan with Giselle Aubry, who was the Tucson International Mariachi Conference was awarded first place for high school. She serenaded Linda Ronstadt Blue Bayou. It was beautiful, and it was just one of the highlights of the whole weekend. I spoke at 2 AVID classes at Pueblo High School, attended the Asian Pacific American and Refugee Student Services, and just a sidebar, I ran into one of my teachers from Wakefield, and he looks exactly the same. I'm like, oh my gosh, Mr. Glavitz. And he's like, how'd you recognize me? I'm like, how could I not? You look exactly the same. It's really cool. And he's like, I recognized you. I'm like, okay, thanks. I don't know that I don't look the same as I did in 7th grade, but he looks the same.
Only a few years ago.
Only a few years ago, just barely, I know, right? African American Student Services, I attended that event, and it was beautiful. I was at the Borton Marquis, Mexican American Student Services recognition, Native American Student Services recognition, and I did a tour of some of our PEEPS facilities, and I think that that was really helpful for both of my the hats that I wear. I attended the PIMA JTED program completion ceremony with many students there from TUSD. I had the privilege of sitting next to our director for JTED, Chuck McCollum, and he said, well, if TUSD had an event like this, there would be 1,000 students, and there were about 700 in attendance. So it was really good to sort of hear, and I was glad that we were there to represent TUSD. I also went to a retirement party for Mary Anderson, who left, and Miss Luna Rose went with me, who is retiring after 32 years in education in TUSD. So I wanted to thank her for all of her years of service. I know we have a lot of people that are retiring, and it's always sad to see them leave our schools, but I'm just glad that for the service that they provided our district. And I think, and I went to a kinder promotion at Hollinger, cutest thing ever, by the way, and that was really fun. They have so many kinder students that they have to split up their promotions over 3 days. So I was there for day 1 of 3. And I will be at Mary Meredith for the graduation of that student at Mary Meredith tomorrow. I will be at Pueblo High School Wednesday, May 25th. McCorkle promotion on Thursday, the 26th. Going to run over and speak to, or I'll be at Project More for their graduation, and then speaking to seniors before they go out at Tucson Magnet High School at 6, and then Innovation Tech at 7:30. So it is a fun time to be a board member. I love all of the promotions. This is my last, graduation ceremony as a board member after 20 years. So I'm kind of going to all of them that they invite me to. So thank you all for everyone just being so gracious and welcoming all of the board members.
Ms.
Grijalva.
Yes, Dr. Ravi.
So I was remiss. I had my personal calendar on my TUSD calendar, but I was able to make it also to Lineweaver twice this past month. On one night for my daughter's chorus performance, and one night for her 4th grade violin performance. So everyone was outdoors enjoying the performances, and is really proud to be part of a Oma Gold campus at Lineweaver.
And I'm too remiss. I missed some personal.
Yeah.
Thursday is my daughter's promotion from Alice Vale. So I will be doing that in the morning. And I am missing tonight the last PTA skate country night for Alice Vale, and she's there. So,
Wow.
dedication.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you very much. I know that Ms. Shaw is going to be at Tucson High. And I didn't get a text, so if either of you would like to say something, feel free to jump in. Otherwise, I will move on to call to the audience. All right. Okay. So, Dr. Trujillo, did you want to let us know where you were going to be?
Can't be left out of the party. I will be at Saguaro. I will be at Saguaro tomorrow night, and then I will be attending UHS out at Keno on Thursday, and then, of course, a very special graduation at Mary Meredith also tomorrow, and then I will be at Project More on Thursday afternoon.
I'll see you there. Okay. All right, we're on to call to the audience. Ms. Luna Rose.
Thank you, Ms. Grijalva. Okay, again, good evening. During the audience call, the board clerk will recognize speakers and maintain order by setting appropriate limitations. The governing board is committed to the safety of the entire TUSD community. The following procedures related to the call of the audience portion of the board meetings will be observed. All public comments for the meeting were accepted by either emailing or calling the board office to have names added to the list, or by emailing written comments to be read into the record by noon of the day of the meeting. If public comments were sent in, they will be read into the record by the program coordinator of staff services to the governing board. Individuals addressing the board should observe rules of propriety and good conduct and refrain from impertinent or slanderous remarks. TUSD serves students from all ages, so speakers should be aware that children may be present or listening. Our staff will make sure each board member receives a copy of all written comments. At the conclusion of the call of the audience, the governing board president will ask if individual board members wish to respond to criticism made by those who have addressed the board, wish to ask staff to review a matter, or wish to ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. By law, at most, 2 board members can address any single issue raised during the call to the audience. And our first person of the evening to address the board is Mr. Carlos Cardona Morales. Mr. Morales, are you present? Okay. Then I'm just going to go in order. Second letter from Miss Lillian Fox.
In response to the governing board's request, an audit report on HR's hiring process was completed and submitted in November 2021. The problems within HR identified by the audit explained why TUSD HR has been a problem for many years. HR associates work hard and put in long hours of overtime without the training they need to be effective and efficient. HR's overtime costs are so high, TUSD could hire 3 more associates and do a better job on HR's big workload. HR's failures are expensive and have damaged TUSD's ability to carry out basic functions such as providing transportation to and from school and educating students. HR's failure to hire any bus drivers and driver trainees for months before the start of a school year made it impossible to have the bus routes it needed. That inconvenience and created hardships for too many TUSD families. The breathtakingly high rates TUSD pays maximum for teachers, subs, and teacher aides are part of the cost of HR's failure to process and hire applicants in a reasonable time. For example, TUSD is currently leasing over 2 pages of people from Maxim. TUSD pays Maxim $58 an hour for a sub, which is $435 a day for a Maxim sub, or more than 3 times as much as TUSD pays its own subs. The $58 to $63 an hour TUSD pays Maxim for a teacher works out to $90,000 to $98,000 a school year. A TUSD teacher could never make that much, not even if they worked for 81 years. The $58 to $63 an hour for a Maxim teacher is $435 to $473 a day. That's more than the daily salary TUSD pays some of its area superintendents and leadership team members. Is TUSD paying Maxim too much for subs and teachers? Maybe if it looks less than 11 weeks for TUSD to hire a job applicant and TUSD paid temporary employees more, TUSD wouldn't be paying Maxim so much money to do HR's job. Tonight, Dr. Trujillo will ask the board to approve leasing people for nursing services, social work services, physical and occupational therapy services. The board needs to ask how much these leased people are going to cost a day and exactly how many people Dr. Trujillo plans to lease under these contracts. This year, TUSD paid nurses uncompetitive wages of $4,500 less a year than it paid teachers. Social workers were paid about $2,500 less a year than teachers. It will be interesting to see how much more TUSD will have to pay to lease nurses and social workers instead of hiring its own. Years of complaints about TUSD HR preceded the pandemic. The pandemic has just highlighted the cost of HR's ineffectiveness. When is someone going to be held responsible? When will HR be managed professionally? Lillian Fox.
Thank you. Next is Ms. Dolores de Vera.
Hello, board members. Last week, some of my colleagues received email from the benefits office telling them that they had worked too many days and banked too much sick time. So the benefits office informed them that they were just going to reduce their sick time balance. The email said, quote, "The leave plans should have a cap of 80 hours in accordance with Proposition 206, deceptively implying that the law requires an 80-hour cap. Prop 206 does not require an employer to cap the amount of sick time an employee can earn. TUSD doesn't cap the accrual of most of its employees. My colleagues asked me, is this legal? Isn't this a form of wage theft? My answer to them was that it's probably not a violation of Prop 206, but I do think it is a violation of TUSD policy BBAA, titled Board Member Authority and Responsibilities. It clearly states that it is the role of the governing board to approve compensation, which is what earned paid sick time is. The board has never voted on an earning cap or a use it or lose it policy for our sick time. One of the frustrating things that happens to us as employees is when we ask a benefit-related question, different subs get different answers depending on who they talk to. So we'll hear one person get something, and we're trying to figure out how we get it. But this matter of sick time is not a call for the director of benefits, and it's not a call for some computer programmer who sets up our paychecks. It is your call. And tonight, board, I ask you to please have a discussion about how this district should handle earned paid sick time for subs in accordance with your responsibilities outlined in BBAA. Do you like the use it or lose it policy? And for those subs who have just been coldly told that their sick leave is getting docked, might it be a better way to show appreciation for their work to offer them a one-time payout and then announce whatever policy you're going to have, if you're going to put a cap on it? Flowing Wells does not allow subs to keep accumulating sick time year over year. What it does is, at the end of the year, they pay out whatever sick time the sub has earned. So I ask you, please have that conversation. Please respect us, protect us, and please pay us what we've earned.
Thank you. Next letter is from Ms. Pilar Ruiz.
There have been complaints about TUSD HR for years. Local businesses have had a hard time getting confirmation of employment for employees from TUSD. One person said it's as though HR doesn't even know who works for TUSD. As a result of so many complaints, the governing board requested an audit of TUSD's HR department last year. The audit of HR's hiring process was finished 6 months ago. The audit report was devastatingly bad. 5 months ago, Executive Director of HR, Renee Heuser, submitted her response with no proposals to make any changes. The following are 3 of the serious problems identified in the audit of the hiring process. 1, inadequate training of the HR staff results in unqualified people performing tasks above their current skill and proficiency level. The lack of training and the lack of accurate, complete training manuals mean tasks are carried out inconsistently. Recommendations: staff members should be properly and fully trained prior to receiving assignments. All staff members should be provided a complete, accurate, detailed instruction manual for all systems. Number 2, HR uses 2 automated systems to carry out its work: iVisions for employee records and Talent Ed for application tracking. Some HR associates aren't proficient on either system. One result is HR associates use a variety of bad methods to track job applications, including spreadsheets, paper calendars, and personal notes. 3, the specific parts of the hiring process performed by the HR department take about 4 weeks. The 4 weeks could potentially be shortened to 1 week if improvements were made. 2 of the problems are: A, HR doesn't have enough people for the size of its workload. Overtime pay is high every week, with some people working shifts as long as 17 hours. The overtime pay is enough to add 3 more full-time people to more efficiently handle HR's workload. B, finally, some of the staff is not able to use either of the 2 automated systems efficiently or effectively. The problems in HR have existed for years. The audit was completed 6 months ago. How much longer can TUSD tolerate a broken hiring process? Pilar Reese.
Thank you. Next letter is from Ms. Jean Kapusinski.
Dear board members, once again, Superintendent Trujillo presented false and misleading information to the public. On local television news, Dr. Trujillo blamed a parent for the brawls and melee that occurred at Tucson High School. Aside from the fact that it is absurd to assert that one person is responsible for the actions of a brood of others, the video clearly shows the parent being swarmed by students, assaulted, and taken to the ground, much in the same way that the monitor was assaulted at Rincon High School last semester. At Tucson High, this was not the first incident of the school year in which an adult has been injured by students during a large fight, although it is the first to make the local news. Unfortunately, aggression and violence on school campuses is a growing problem and has increased in frequency and severity since the reopening of schools post-pandemic. It is not this one's parents' fault. It is not the school's fault. It is not the district's fault. More importantly, however, it is the district's responsibility to address the ongoing and increasing problem. It is not helpful nor appropriate for Superintendent Trujillo to lay blame and shirk responsibility. The district is waiting for Dr. Trujillo for once to admit there's a problem, face the challenge, and let the parents and public know what is being done about it. Furthermore, Dr. Trujillo has actually contributed to the crisis, increasing risk on campuses throughout the district by dismantling and disstaffing DAPE. Prior to this year, DAPE was a successful program providing behavioral and academic intervention and support for at-risk students, many of whom were involved in incidents of aggression or violence. In August, DAPE staff duly warned the superintendent and the board that DAPE enrollment would rise throughout the year, as it always does. Nevertheless, DAPE was destaffed and disconfigured primarily out of spite and retaliation. Subsequently, DAPE could not safely and effectively function as before and was not able to accept all of the students that were referred this year. At the time of the Tucson High incident, DAPE high school classrooms were already full and had a waiting list. Despite the court order, it is unknown if DAPE will be successfully restored next year. Sincerely, Jean Kapusinski.
Thank you. Next letter to be read is from Ms. Amy Anderson.
Good evening. I'm writing today about the inappropriate material in TUSD schools. Allowing a drag show using minors on a school property is just wrong and has no place in the schools. That is adult material being pushed on underage kids, and just like so many inappropriate books that can be found in TUSD libraries and assignments given to students with vulgar language, it's sick and disgusting that it is allowed to happen in our schools to our kids. Encouraging these kinds of activities and requiring students to read explicitly inappropriate material leads to what happened between the Tucson High counselor and students. It's grooming, and it's teaching its kids that this behavior and language is normal and okay. You won't even let us read out loud what is printed in those books that students are being required to read. We are asking you to stop allowing inappropriate activities like drag shows in schools. Let the kids back to history, math, and writing, etc. We are also asking that a review of inappropriate books in the libraries take place and those with sexual content be removed and not required for kids to read. Thank you, Amy Anderson.
Thank you. Next letter is in person from Ms. Jennifer Sprung.
Good afternoon. Board President, board members, superintendent. I have worked for TUSD since 1987, have over 48 years of a direct association with this district, have been trained by ADE in solutions teams and academic standards curriculum, hold admin certs, and labeled a master teacher, highly qualified educator. Was an academic trainer as science specialist, monitored multiple programs and trained many personnel across the district. Have never seen such disregard for adherence to policies and protocols from within. 3+ years of ongoing reports of concern from parents and employees appear ignored. A few of the many egregious actions of administration this semester, an unusual and unethical practice of enrolling students in Synergy Plus online courses under the accounts of highly qualified science teacher, not teaching the courses. The school has had no math or science certified teachers for most of the second semester. Falsifying of curriculum records and enrollments to perhaps meet the needs for the spring ADE walkthrough on year 5 improvement. Failure to report the school's COVID close contact exposures and COVID positive numbers per TUSD protocols for all of the fall semester. Failure to inform one employee of workplace COVID positive close contact for over 3 days. The administration chose to email the employee early Saturday morning instead of at work the previous few days, aware that work emails are not read until Monday. 2 other employees and students were notified within an hour of COVID positive exposure via phone calls on the same day as exposure. Why the inequity? Had employee escorted off campus by TUSD safety during contract time without any explanation or notification. There was no justification given. Another abuse of authority. Submitted PLC stipend pay requests for at least 3 employees that never attended PLC meetings, clock evidence per data tracking as required. Employees received 301 pay despite ineligible per TUSD guidelines. Removed and deleted the lead teacher from the school team's computer page where she maintained the school PLC records and data. Approved 3 teachers 6/5 stipend pay for over $9,000 to cover a teaching load of 7 students at a cost of $12.85 per student. Favoritism, cronyism, fraud, abuses of authority continue. Lacking ethics? Yes. As colleagues stated, none of this
Ms. Sprung,
passes
I'm sorry,
the
your
smell
time
test.
is up.
Thank
you. All right, thank you. Next speaker is Ms. Margaret Cheney.
Good evening, Governing Board members, Dr. Trujillo, legal counsel, and district staff. Thank you so very much for continuing to work with TEA to find the very best deal possible to compensate our employees. Because we know the strain it puts on the budget, but we know that you know that it's worth it in the long run. My topic tonight is student defiance and progressive discipline. Not less than 5 sites within the Pantano region have disciplined teachers who, in the process of enforcing district policies, have been given complaints from students or parents alleging everything from disrespect to racism and sexual harassment. Upon receiving the complaints, the administrator is instructed to immediately place the teacher on administrative leave for their own good while an investigation takes place. None of this violates TEA consensus directly, except when sent home, the teacher is sometimes not given a written letter of inquiry stating what the violation is, or a copy of the original complaint so that they may address the issue appropriately. Further, when a teacher or staff is sent home, their reputation and career are on the line, and it is difficult to regain the respect of their students or colleagues when suspicions and rumors are flying. Let me explain why this is the wrong way to handle this issue. When a teacher is sent home, it indicates that there is an immediate threat on campus whereby instruction and student safety are at risk. In none of the instances I am citing has such a threat been apparent or even mentioned. The district pays for both a sub and the teacher of record. Sending teachers on paid leave for enforcing board policy is a knee-jerk reaction and creates a toxic environment within the site. Teachers become fearful of student or parent interactions to all things done in the classroom, leaving them with no recourse but to simply ignore student defiance. We acknowledge that policies like the dress code exist and that employees are expected to enforce it. If the district upholds disciplining staff for attempting to enforce policies, it is inevitable that said policies will go unenforced in the future and defiance will become more widespread on our campuses, causing even more teachers to leave the district or profession. Burnout is real for everyone. We feel we must remind all that every adult on every campus was subjected to the same trauma, same anxiety, and losses that our students have had to endure. When we have cried out for campus-wide support, they are met with requests to complete more paperwork. Teachers who have worked in the district with unblemished records are being threatened and terrorized by what might happen to them if they're merely attempting to keep order and get students to follow rules. Please take another look at how upper admin should respond to future accusations regarding the issue of progressive discipline and the student code of conduct to include appropriate and real consequences for defiance, including the usage of the N-word toward faculty and other students. Protect us and respect us so that we can continue to protect and respect those under our care. Thank you.
Okay, board members, the end of the call to the audience was, because this is a special meeting, is 6:33. Do we have any other speakers? Ms. Luna Rose?
We have one more to be read.
Okay.
That's about it.
Do I have a motion to extend the call? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on. So that's the end of the call to the audience, and so if any board member wishes to ask staff to review a matter, wish to ask that a matter be put on a future agenda, or ask staff to look into or respond to a criticism. Does anyone want to respond? Or review a matter? Okay. Now we're going to go on to the consent agenda. Dr. Trujillo.
Ms. Grijalva?
Yes. Michelle.
I apologize. I couldn't get off of mute quick enough. I just wanted to ask if staff can review the matter written by Ms. Fox and Ms. Ruiz regarding HR and their capacity. Also, if we can look into the matter discussed by Ms. Sprung regarding, well, everything she was talking about, really, and also Ms. Cheney. If we could review her recommendations as well. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Dr. Trujillo, consent agenda.
President Grijalva, members of the governing board, I would like to recommend passage of the consent agenda as arranged, items 6.2 through 6.14.
Okay, I'll go ahead and move the item.
I'll second.
Have a motion to second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes unanimously. On to 7.1, administrative appointments, Director of Health Services, Dr. Trujillo. And this, Dr. Trujillo, we have quite a list of appointees.
Yes, we have quite a list. So we are, in the interest of striking a balance between celebrating the welcome of the employees into their new positions and speed and efficiency, we're going to go through these quickly, but we will, of course, logistically do the picture at the end, one shot with all of our new employees. That way we can move through these in an expedient fashion. Okay, so tonight...
And if anyone is here to celebrate any of these appointees, feel free to come to the front, take pictures, do whatever you want to do. Okay, thanks.
Yes, tonight's recommendation to fill the Director for Health Services He is not going to be available. He is traveling this evening, but he is very, very excited to be joining us. He previously served as the Dean of Nursing for the Tucson campus for the Arizona College of Nursing. And prior to that, he was the Dean of the Division of Health Sciences for the Pima County Community College from 2014 to 2020. Of course, he is somebody that is very, very experienced in leadership roles in public health. And we would like to welcome and recommend this evening Mr. Joseph Gaw for Director of Health Services.
Okay, I'll move the item.
Second.
I have a motion and Dr. Ravi seconds. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Congratulations. And we'll get to know him better later. Principal Davis Bilingual Elementary, Dr. Trujillo.
Yes, tonight we are proud to recommend one of our most seasoned and experienced administrative leaders. She has been the longtime assistant principal over at Hollinger K-8, which has its two-way dual language program of its own and is actually home to one of the only two-way dual language GATE programs that we have in the district. She has served that community with pride, and prior to her service at Hollinger, she served as a learning support coordinator. Modern day version is now the curriculum service provider, but she served as a learning supports coordinator for 3 years from 2011 to 2014. Strong background as an English language development teacher, ELD teacher, of course, guidance counselor as well, and of course served as a kindergarten teacher and a reading teacher, and of course special education. So multifaceted, has a lot of experience serving a lot of different segments of our student body with all of her service here in Tucson Unified School District, starting way back in 1997. So
Stop
tonight,
saying that.
we want
Way
to
back.
recommend TUSD lifer Maricela Campillo to serve as the next principal of Davis Elementary.
Okay.
Davis Magna.
I'll move the item.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Oh, and Ms. Lunaro seconds. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Felicidades. Congratulations. Come on up. Is her mic on? Oh, there
Is
you
the
are.
mic? I don't think the mic.
There you are.
Is it on?
Now you are.
Okay. President Grijalva, Dr. Trujillo, governing board members, thank you for this incredible opportunity to serve as the new principal of Davis Bilingual. If I may also take just a second to thank the Hollinger community, Mr. Taravati, who currently serves as principal, for this ongoing support and just an incredible mentor. And lastly, my husband and family. My husband is here to support, for just their unconditional love and support. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Felicidades.
Gracias.
Okay. Interim Principal, Choya High School, Dr. Trujillo.
Yeah. Yes, President Grijalva, this is a bittersweet moment as we say goodbye at Choya to one of the longest serving principals in all of Pima County for high schools, Mr. Frank Armenta. We'll be taking a moment to acknowledge that accomplishment at our next board meeting, but for now, we will talk about the huge vacancy that we have for one of our most amazing administrative leaders of high schools in this district, Choya. And tonight we want to recommend another amazing high school administrative leader who did some awesome work for Nogales Unified, formerly serving as Nogales High School's principal proudly from 2015 to 2019. A few years back, we were very, very lucky to lure him away from Nogales Unified. I know that the superintendent at that time was a good friend of mine, reluctantly wanted to let him go, but really, really said some amazing things about his leadership there in Nogales. I had the opportunity to visit Morgan Maxwell, where he's currently principal. And it was tough because I had to listen to all the staff members tell me how wonderful he is and what he's done for the climate and culture of that campus. But nevertheless, high school calling him again. So we would like to recommend this evening to serve as the interim principal out at Choya. We'd like to recommend Mr. Cesar Miranda to fill that spot.
All right. I'll go ahead and move the item. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Lunaro seconds. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Felicidades. Come forward. Congratulations.
Superintendent Dr. Trujillo, Board President Grijalva, board members, I am extremely honored. I know I'm filling some big shoes with Mr. Armenta. He's been an awesome role model up there. He's helped me out actually the last couple of years with questions, and I appreciate this opportunity. I'm excited. I'm going to work my tail off. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Administrative appointment, interim principal, Choya High School. Dr. Trujillo.
Yes, so now we move on to Doolin, I believe.
Wait, I'm sorry,
Correct,
Doolin.
Doolin? Oh, okay.
I have to flip the page. I apologize. Interim principal, Doolin Middle School.
Yeah, so we're very, very excited to welcome back a wonderful administrative leader that previously served at Tucson High as its assistant principal a few years back. Left for a little bit to continue her administrative journey over in Cat Foothills as assistant principal, and is now making her way back for her first opportunity in the principalship. We're very, very excited to give her this opportunity and to recommend her for the interim principalship at Doolin Middle School, Miss Natalie Santin.
Okay, I'll go ahead and move the item.
I'll second.
Have a motion, and Ms. Luna Rose seconds. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Congratulations. Come on up. Felicidades.
Thank you so very much for this opportunity. Thank you to the TUSD Governing Board, Superintendent Trujillo, and Assistant Superintendent Richard Sanchez. I'm so nervous and excited at the same time. I'm looking forward to working with the Doolin community, growing up in a school very similar to the Doolin school system and community, being a former ELD student, AVID student, and GATE student. I felt it was a perfect fit, and I'm just so excited. And after 3 years working in middle school, I'm really excited to take over my own school and be a part of the community. And I vow to be allow an open door policy and always being visible to all the stakeholders available. And I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the two people in the audience with me right now, my husband, who also works in the Arroyo Chico area, and my mother, who did everything for me, and I'm so thankful. And so thank you very much.
Thank you. Congratulations. Okay, administrative appointment, interim principal, Pister Middle School.
Yes, tonight's recommendation, this is just going to be hard seeing her in anything but Columbia blue out there serving the warrior community at Pueblo. It's going to be different. But nevertheless, one of our most seasoned instructional leaders in the district who fills just such an amazing role and a vital role there serving the community of Pueblo High School. But leadership calls at the middle school level. And we have a huge need and a huge challenge over at Pister to fill the gigantic leadership shoes of Ms. Rivera, who will be taking on the challenge in the honor of Tucson High. But tonight we want to recommend for the interim principalship the current assistant principal for curriculum and instruction out at Pueblo, where she's been serving since 2017. We would like to give her opportunity for leadership, interim principal at Pister Middle. Our recommendation tonight is Catherine Gunnels.
I'll move the item.
I'll second.
Ms. Luna Rose seconds. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Congratulations, Principal Gunnels.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to continue to serve the community that I love. Much of my time in TUSD has been spent at Pueblo High School, 22 years in total. I really want to thank my family, my husband and my son who are here tonight, and also my family who's watching. You guys are my why. And also to my Pueblo family, hasta luego.
Thank you. Congratulations. Administrative appointment, interim principal, Morgan Maxwell, K-8.
Yes, and the Morgan Maxwell community, as they Bid best of luck and farewell to Mr. Miranda. We now have a vacancy there for leadership. And we're excited to welcome a veteran administrative leader from Sahuarita Unified School District, where she currently serves as the principal of Sahuarita Intermediate School and proudly served as its assistant principal out there at Anza Trail K-8 for a good 7 years. And now she's coming into TUSD. Her career started in Sunnyside, our neighboring district, so very, very familiar with our student body and our wonderful community here. And tonight we want to recommend her for the interim principal position over at Morgan Maxwell K-8. Oh, Clarissa Nido would help to give the name. Right?
I know, I'm like waiting.
The name helps, yes.
We
Nido.
do have 20, so we're going to forgive you for a moment. Okay, I'll go ahead and move Ms. Nido.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Felicidades. Come on down.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Trujillo, President Grijalva. It's an honor to join Tucson Unified and the Morgan Maxwell community and family. I just want to thank everyone for this opportunity and go Mountain Lions. Thank you.
Thank you. Felicidades. Administrative appointment, Assistant Principal, Pueblo High School. Dr. Trujillo.
Yes, a few months ago, the governing board appointed tonight's recommendation as interim assistant principal at Pueblo during an incredibly difficult time as the campus struggled with the loss of its beloved assistant principal, Mr. Montaño. And this leader embraced that challenging yet rewarding situation with grace, dedication, and passion, and has done an outstanding job. And tonight, at the request of the Pueblo High School administrative team and principal, we proudly want to recommend her for the permanent assistant principal position there at Pueblo High School. So tonight's recommendation, a longtime UHS educator and leader, Meg Tully.
Oh, I'll move the item.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Congratulations.
All right, Dr. Trujillo, board members, Councilor Ross, it feels like I was just here.
I was just going to say that was the quickest turnaround. Yeah.
So I'll keep this short. I am so grateful for this opportunity to serve the Pueblo community moving forward. I will say that since arriving at Pueblo, all the good things I heard about the school were absolutely true. I have had such a good time. I felt welcomed by the administration, especially Mr. Roslinhauser, our counselors, our teachers, and I just have to say, I wake up every day just excited to go to work. I absolutely love being an administrator. I love being an administrator at Pueblo, and I go home every day grateful for every experience. I just want to say how much from the bottom of my heart I deeply, deeply love this role, and I am so grateful, and I will continue to do the best job possible. So thank you again.
Thank you. Administrative appointment, Assistant Principal, Tucson High Magnet School.
Yes. President Grijalva, members of the governing board, our next recommendation is for the assistant principal vacancy at Tucson High. And tonight's recommendation is a homegrown product right there out of Tucson High. And I know that the Tucson High administration has taken some time to mentor and guide and put tonight's recommendation in positions of leadership on that campus, which have included most recently his service as curriculum service provider, coaching teachers, leading instructional reform at the classroom level across the campus, and then previously site testing coordinator, which at that small city is no small feat. So with the amount of standardized testing that we do every year, and most recently, of course, as its summer school coordinator. So one of our most outstanding up-and-coming administrative prospects, now taking his first step into formal leadership. As a recommendation for assistant principal, our recommendation tonight is Kyle Brady.
Thank you, Dr. Trujillo. I'll go ahead and move the item.
I'll second.
I have a motion, a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Congratulations. Felicidades.
Board President Grijalva, Clerk Luna Rose, board members, Dr. Trujillo, legal counsel, district leadership, thank you all so much for this opportunity. I'm incredibly honored and grateful to be able to continue my journey at Tucson High in this new role, and I'm very excited to hit the ground running and get to work with the Badger community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Congratulations. Administrative appointment, Assistant Principal, Pister Middle School.
Yes, President Grijalva, board members, our next recommendation is over at Pister Middle School, where we have an assistant principal vacancy here. And tonight we want to recommend a current teacher mentor that is currently serving with us and charged with sharpening the skills of our teachers. But previous to that, he served as the transportation director over at Vail. So he is a very, very skilled administrative leader who is now looking to get into school administration. So tonight, we would like to recommend for this position Mr. Margarito Jesus Casillas to serve as the assistant principal over at Pister Middle School. Mr. Casillas.
Okay, thank you.
I'll move the item.
I'll second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Felicidades. Congratulations.
Dr. Trujillo, President Grijalva, board members, I am full of emotion right now, but I'm humble and happy to be here, and I can't wait to serve my students, staff, parents, and Pister community. And I want to thank my parents. My parents, they're watching somewhere, and my family, my wife and children, my cheering squad back here. Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here. Gracias.
Gracias. Felicidades. Administrative appointment, Assistant Principal, Seacrest Middle School.
Yes, tonight's hiring recommendation cannot be here this evening, but is with us in spirit and is certainly looking forward to the opportunity. But tonight's recommendation is a native of Cleveland, Ohio, where she currently serves as the assistant principal of the Cleveland School of the Arts, where she has served for the last 7 years. Will be making the big move to the old Pueblo and coming here prospectively to TUSD. We'd like to recommend Renee DiBiasio to serve as the assistant principal over there at Seacrest, serving the Scorpion community. And she is our hiring recommendation.
Okay, and she is joining us virtually, so I'd go ahead and move the item.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Congratulations. And you are welcome to say a few words.
Thank you, President Grijalva, Dr. Trujillo, Governing Board. I just want to say I started my career in education in Tucson, and I'm so excited to be coming back, and I'm especially happy to be joining TUSD. I've seen so much pride and passion and inclusivity in this meeting through the whole interview process, and I know a lot of care and consideration was taken to find the right placement for me. And so I'm just so happy to join Ms. Garcia and the team at Seacrest and excited to help them move forward the great work they are doing there. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we welcome you to TUSD. Congratulations. Thank you. Administrative appointment, Assistant Principal, Valencia Middle School.
Yes, tonight we want to support the Jaguar community by recommending a new assistant principal to join the leadership team there. He's currently serving at Robbins as the Dean of Students. And I believe I ran into you. We had a nice conversation when I visited Robbins back in the earlier part of the spring semester. Prior to that, he was an athletic director over in the Amphi School District, and now he's taken that formal step into administration as a prospective assistant principal. So tonight's recommendation for assistant principal at Valencia, Mr. Manny Padilla.
I'll move the item.
I'll second.
A motion to second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Congratulations. Felicidades.
Wow, thank you, President Grijalva, board members, Dr. Trujillo. It is an absolute honor to be here with you all. I am a C.E. Rose Wakefield kid, and to be able to grow up in the district and now be able to serve an amazing community, work with an amazing leadership team, I'm absolutely honored and proud. So thank you all so much.
Yay. Congratulations. Thank you. Okay. Administrative appointment, Assistant Principal, McCorkle Academy of Excellence.
Yes, President Grijalva, board members, tonight's hiring recommendation comes to us from the great state of Oregon. So we're welcoming one of our external candidates and recommendations here this evening. And he currently serves in an administrative role out there in Oregon, but previous to that, oh, wait a minute, wrong recommendation. Let me reset.
I could hear the muttering. I was waiting.
Yeah, yes, my apologies. I've got so many screens open with tonight's recommendations, okay? Give me a moment.
McCorkle.
Give me a moment to reset. I skipped one. That's right. So let me return to 7.12. Okay. So, McCorkle. And we are right. Okay. So tonight's candidate for McCorkle is, actually got it right, from Oregon. Currently serving as the vice principal at NYSA Elementary School, where he's been for the last few years. Looking to make the big move out here to Southern Arizona. Want to recommend Mr. Scott Rodman to serve as the assistant principal at Marybelle McCorkle K-8.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and move the item.
I'll second.
A motion to second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes unanimously. And Mr. Rodman, you are online. So if we can make Mr. Rodman's if you can pin him, then if you want to say a few words, we'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. Muchas gracias, Presidenta Grijalva, Dr. Trujillo y Junta de Directores. Muchas gracias por la oportunidad de servir. My wife and daughters and I will be arriving in Tucson in a couple of weeks, as Dr. Trujillo said, from the green state of Oregon, and we can't wait to put down roots. My daughters are looking forward to attending Ross Rouge, and I absolutely cannot wait to start my work as a McCorkle Mustang. Like Ms. De Biasio, I think, shared, I feel TUSD took great care to find a great appointment for me. I believe deeply in dual language and in project-based learning, and I'm really looking forward to working with the administrative team there. So thank you so much for the opportunity. Mucho gusto.
Thank you. Mucho gusto. Look forward to having you in Tucson. Felicidades. Administrative appointment, Assistant Principal Roberts Naylor, K-8. Dr. We have a fan.
Yes. Joining the Roberts Naylor K-8 community, we would like to recommend this evening an administrative leader that is making his way up the I-10 from Marana over here to TUSD. Currently serves as Marana's Career and Technical Education Director. He's in the right place because we are Southern Arizona's CTE district with over 7,000 students enrolled. Just saying. Not that it's a competition with Marana. But he currently serves there as director. Previous to that, he was an assistant principal over in Sierra Vista. And tonight, we want to recommend him to fill the position of assistant principal at Roberts Naylor, Mr. Adam Steiner.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and move the item.
I'll second.
Motion to second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Congratulations.
Mr. Steiner.
Is that the spirit stick? Nice.
Yeah, I got a prop.
Yeah.
Dr. Trujillo, ladies and gentlemen of the governing board, I am very, very proud and happy to join TUSD as the next assistant principal at Roberts Naylor. I can't wait to get started and become part of the Roberts Naylor community. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Welcome to TUSD. Now we have administrative appointment assistant principal Safford K8, Dr. Trujillo.
Yes, President Grijalva, board members, tonight's recommendation came in as an interim assistant principal and had just an immediate impact on the community and on the student body. The way he carries himself, I visited that campus a few times this year, celebrating their Restart Smart work and their work with community schools. He is just an amazing administrative leader, and you can tell he's got that principal walk because he was a principal in Altar Valley for 8 years. So I recognized it when I first met him, but tonight he's our recommendation to serve in the permanent capacity there as assistant principal, Mr. Joshua Peebles.
Thank you. I'll move the item.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Congratulations.
Dr. Trujillo, Governing Board, thank you so much for this opportunity. I love Safford and I love the community, and we're going to continue to do some amazing things there. Also, thank you, Mark Alvarez. Thank you, Dr. Kuhn. I appreciate all of your assistance. We're going to continue to do some really, really awesome stuff, so come visit us and see what Safford's going to do. And lastly, I wanted to thank my beautiful wife, Lacey. Thank you for all of your support in all of these administrative endeavors I'm taking on. Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Administrative appointment, interim assistant principal, Pueblo High School. Mike's off. Oh, VC.
We're at VC.
Oh my gosh, now it's my fault.
Now it's
I
happening
crossed
to
it
you.
out. I'm sorry. I'm trying to stay organized and okay. Assistant 7.15, assistant principal, VC Elementary.
Yes, tonight's recommendation is a 10-year Tucson Unified School District veteran. Her journey started at Sabino High School as a teacher and included a stop as a curriculum service provider at Gridley Middle School, and ends now here at VC, where she served as the school's, where she's been able to serve as the school's curriculum service provider and interim assistant principal. And tonight we'd like to recommend her, Catherine Sable, to serve as the assistant principal there at VC.
Okay, I'll move the item.
I'll second.
Have a motion to second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Congratulations. I think she's here.
Catherine is under the weather this evening. Had every intention to be here, but not feeling well this evening, but is excited for this position.
Great. Okay, now 7.16 administrative appointment, interim assistant principal, Pueblo High School.
Yes, our recommendation this evening as we celebrate Ms. Gunnels taking the helm over there at Pister. We have a leadership need over at Pueblo at the assistant principal position. Tonight's recommendation, no stranger to me, she runs a beautiful library. I'm always over there when I do the love of reading and when I visit McCorkle, and has been a very, very powerful and passionate voice of advocacy for the library arts in TUSD. Tonight, taking her journey into administration, she proudly serves currently, of course, the McCorkle community as a library media specialist, where she's been for the last 7 years, and then prior to that served at Van Buskirk as its library media specialist. But tonight, she is our recommendation to serve the Pueblo community as its assistant principal, Jennifer Meyershon.
Thank you. I'll move the item.
I'll second.
Have a motion to second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you, Dr. Trujillo, President Grijalva, and board members, also to the TUSD leadership team. I am very honored to receive this appointment to serve as the interim AP at Pueblo, and I'm just excited to continue the awesome things that the leadership team is doing. I'm excited to join that team and continue to serve in any leadership capacity I'm asked. And I'm also looking forward to seeing the Mustangs that I've just had the pleasure of knowing at McCorkle. I know that there's going to be a lot of warriors that will be familiar faces. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm looking forward to continue to doing the great things at Pueblo.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Just for clarification of the record, I want to make sure that my recommendation was interim. I believe I may have said assistant principal.
It says interim.
It
Yep,
says interim.
It's interim.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Okay. And with that, I believe we have enough light for an outside picture because we have a big group. So we got lucky. There's enough daylight where we can do a nice photo out in the courtyard and then, of course, resume our meeting.
Okay, for those of you paying attention online, we're going to take a quick break to take a picture, and we'll be right back.
Oh, it's in my briefcase. It's a beautiful tie. It's just a beautiful tie.
I have a question for you. So I was on an interview, and we interviewed two people, and then the third one had an emergency. Okay, so then they reset it, and he's on, and we're seeing him. Remind this is another day, and then all of a sudden he has another emergency, and can't complete the interview. So then they scheduled the interview, the third interview for him. Yeah. But I couldn't go because I was off that afternoon. And I emailed and called, nobody answered, and told them I can't come. And then the other person that was another person that was on that interview got on 5 minutes late because they were busy working with the child. And they did not let her in that interview. So I know from doing lots and lots of interviews that the same people need to be on each of those interviews, right? If possible. I mean, I get it, but this guy has done it. But neither one of us, me and my person that I knew, neither one of us was on this. And then the guy got a higher position. And I'm not saying he's good or bad, but I never even got to meet him, other than, oh, I've got to go, I have 911 on here and I've got to go. Personally, I'm thinking, why isn't your phone off during your interview? But I'm just saying. And we may be jumping from the fire pan into the fire, or we may be falling out of it. I just thought, and I don't ever want him to know that I questioned this because I haven't worked with him. Or for at least 1 month. Hopefully that's after 4 more years? Oh, no. Oh, no. I'll be 65. Hopefully for two sessions, so that would be 4 more years. I would probably take TUSD, I understand. call my, well, the dramatic kids. I call them crazy, not to their face, obviously. The dramatic kids that I want when they get their Emmy to thank me that they got to practice on me. Yeah. I mean, all of them. I had a little one come in and says, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I'm allergic to peanuts. And I ate something that had chocolate in it, and I can't breathe now. And he's just talking away.
It's the end of the year. I mean, they gotta leave you enough to get you through
I
the
know, but
summer.
as soon as somebody says somebody's having a allergic reaction, you perk up and you go, okay, whatever, and I'm looking him up. He didn't have anything. Wait a minute, this is one of our teacher's kids. I'm on the phone. I said, does he have any kind of allergies? No. So teacher's kids will hang through his teeth. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
But that's how the day's been going. All of the days this past week have been going that way. So. I'm telling you, just get your heart going. It's like, okay. Yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to know, not that I want like a recourse on it in any way. I just want it noted that two of us, I remember the person who was the first, we were just like left out together. And I was really here, especially her. She was working with the child. And as soon as she was done, she got home. And then
That's harder to do than to have a person or drop a person.
They tried to go this. And I'm like, and I'm not saying that any of it was done intentionally. We were, this is last I'm sorry. McNeely, yes. Yeah, because he made a comment, oh, we're probably related. I'm like, probably not. It's my ex's name. So, yeah. And so I just thought, maybe I'll just be quiet about it. And the person that was winning, when we were there, we still went. And that's how we were. So, this is a hard position. Right? Before us. I just know. Okay, but they didn't see like that we didn't get to finish. They saw that we didn't get to end. Okay, and the two people were. They would have got that a minute. And he may be a great person. Right? Our school shoots here. Right? Because all the stuff they just did. Yes, it has, and I think it's going to get busier. That's just the feeling. I know my school people they can't go in the house without stand up. Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, both of our councils, which is like huge for us, and because some of our kids are every school we go to. Yeah. So, well, you know, we've got some. The other one is left. And so now, NTSS. But tonight's the vice principal interim, and then early, like earlier. I don't know. Mark's hoping that something, whatever.
Start putting it together.
And then,
But that's the one that all the schools have. So then if they just have that sticky. My son is like, can you send me like little hand sanitizer because the one in class is okay. Anyway. I get that. I do what I want. My kid's like, it's okay. Are we ready? Robbie, Natalie. Okay. Ms. Shaw and Ms. Counts, are you still with us? We're going to get started here.
I'm here.
Yep. Okay, great. Thank you so much. All right. So thank you for indulging the break. It was really great to congratulate those new administrators that were able to join us. And so we did all of the appointments, and now we're on 7.17, Governing Board Policy DG, Banking Services. Dr. Trujillo.
Yes, President Grijalva, board members, the next 4 items I will be turning over to our general counsel. They do involve policy second reads, largely to bring our policies into alignment with statutory changes. Mr. Ross?
Thank you, Dr. Trujillo. So the first one, board members, is Governing Board Policy DG. It's a new draft policy, and this is a second read. It has been posted since March 22nd. Comment period closed on April 24th. No comments were received. What this policy does is it establishes the statutory requirement.
I'm sorry, Mr. Ross, can you either speak closer to the mic or a little bit louder, please?
Oh, okay. It was loud in my head.
I know.
I think there's a speaker above me. Okay.
We're good now. Thank you.
Policy DG is banking services, second reading, and this policy would align the banking policies that we have. Actually, we don't have. It's a practice, but not in policy. This would put statutory requirements in policy regarding what we do with impact aid funds, revolving fund, auxiliary operation funds, and also what the district does required by statute for bonding of handling certain funds. So this is a second read. It's been posted since March 22nd. Comments closed on April 24th, but we keep it up there. There have been no comments on this. This is a second read, and the request is to approve it.
Board members?
I'll move the item.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Thank you. Now we're on 7.18, and if you all could vote online, please. 7.18, Governing Board Policy JLH, Missing Students. Dr. Trujillo.
Yes, I'd like to turn it back over to Mr. Ross.
Thank you, Dr. Trujillo. This is another new proposed policy, JLH, regarding missing students. There's a statutory requirement for school districts to cooperate with law enforcement by flagging the records of students who are reported as missing. So if they come to our school, we will, or we'll flag. If there's another request for their records, we have a flag in our system so that we can report that to law enforcement, and hopefully, if there's a student in an unsafe situation, they can take care of that. So this is, again, a second read, also posted since March 22nd. Comment period closed on April 24th. There were no comments received. This is one that we would provide training to office managers in schools to make sure they know how to accomplish this flagging of the record in Synergy. And our request here is to approve this in final.
Okay, board members?
I'll move the item.
I'll second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. And now 7.19, Governing Board Policy JLCD. This is a revision, second reading. Mr. Ross.
Thank you, President Grijalva. For the next two, we will have our Associate General Counsel, Michael Aronoff, review the policy and the status. Michael?
Thank you. Good evening.
The 7.19 is policy JLCD. This is administering medications to students. The major change here is to add the exception for naloxone hydrochloride, which is Narcan, an opioid antagonist. We're obligated by statute to have a policy that allows for teachers and any other school employee to administer Narcan in an emergency. And so these changes bring us up to sort of up to code with the current statute. We do also have a regulation that goes into more detail and giving staff guidance on when and how to administer. And I understand that there will be efforts put into expanding training so that people are comfortable administering it in an emergency if they choose to. This is a second read. This went up for public comment, closed April 24th. There were no comments received, and we are asking the board to adopt this as final at this time.
Okay, I'll go ahead and move the item.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion, and Dr. Ravi seconds. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Item 7.20, Governing Board Policy JLD, Guidance and Counseling Revised, second reading. Mr. Ross? Mr. Arnoff?
Go ahead, Michael.
I'll take it. Thank you. The policy JLD is another revision that brings us up to statute. This has to do with getting parental consent when we do an evaluation for guidance and counseling. The current practice is already correct. This just sort of brings us into track with current practice, which is already legal, but that we have to get consent before conducting a mental health screening, except in two circumstances. One is if the student is already an adult, is 18 or over, or if there is an emergency. Those are the two exceptions to getting parental consent. This also went up for public comment, which closed on April 24th. We did not receive any comments to this policy, and so we're asking the board to approve it as final at this time.
I'll go ahead and move the item.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. And just as a reminder for anyone who's watching us online, Ms. Counts and Ms. Shaw are joining us virtually. So we don't have the Zoom up, so we can't see them, but they're definitely participating, and there they are right there. Thank you. Okay. Item 8.1, study action, discussion, and possible action on filling vacancies on the audit committee requested by Board Clerk Natalie Luna Rose and General Counsel Robert Ross.
Mr. Ross.
Mr. Ross.
Thank you. Do we have Dr. Kelly on, Gene? Okay. So this was requested actually by the chair of the audit committee, and Ms. Luna Rose and I discussed it and thought it'd be a good idea to put on the board's agenda. Dr. Kelly and the audit committee have had difficulty maintaining a quorum. In fact, we just had a meeting on Friday, which was after 2 cancellations because of lack of quorum. And they have 3 vacancies and have had difficulty filling them. Dr. Kelly asked that the board consider waiving or lifting their charter conflict of interest provisions. And these are the same provisions that the board has for the Budget Advisory Committee, and the same conditions of conflict of interest that the board has in the Technology Oversight Committee. What Dr. Kelly what had suggested is that if the condition that says that a committee member cannot be someone who has worked for the district in the last 2 years, that could open up the possibility of more people applying for those 3 vacancies. I will say the Technology Oversight Committee's provision has a bit of an off-ramp that says that if a candidate discloses there are potential violation of these conflicts that are in the charter to the board can decide to waive that. That's something you could do when there's an actual applicant with the TOC. That off-ramp does not appear in the Audit Committee's charter. And of course, with the lack of quorum at meetings, the Audit Committee can't even propose a charter change for the board to consider. So that's why Dr. Kelly asked to kind of elevate that right to the board. So that's what this is about, is basically filling those vacancies and requesting the board's assistance or ideas on how to best fill and quickly fill those so that the Audit Committee can go about its work. And I don't know if Ms. Luna Rose, if you wanted to add anything.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. This is, like Mr. Ross said, this was actually the first meeting I've attended as board member to the committee, and I was appointed, I think almost a year ago to the committee, so this is the first time I was actually able to sit in because it had been canceled. It was, I personally think that there could probably be some adjustments and improvements to the committee, just to make it move along and see if it is something that is useful and helpful to the district. But I'm also willing to and wanting to learn a little bit more and see if we can get some new people on the committee and really maybe work in tandem with, I know that, we've got the Budget Advisory Committee, we've got the Technological Oversight Committee, so if we can sort of work in tandem in getting more community members involved, I think would go a long way it would just go a long way. I'll end it there.
Okay, Dr. Trujillo, did you have any thoughts?
I think kind of along the lines of what Mrs. Luna Rose was talking about. I do think that the Audit Committee needs objectives. I think they need structured objectives and goals that are set for them every year. I think now that we've seen that we have a Budget Advisory Committee, that I think we can model the expectations that we have for the Budget Advisory Committee. Perhaps we can give that same sort of structure where priorities are identified, timelines are clearly articulated. That doesn't seem to be there for the Audit Committee, and I think that that's contributing to some of the challenges that we see. And I think also that applicants are going to be more willing, I think, to fill that seat if there is that level of structure, if they know very clearly what the deliverables are, what the roles and the responsibilities are, what the meeting commitments are, what a timeline for meetings looks like. And again, you have that structure over with the Budget Advisory Committee, and we don't currently for audit.
Okay, yeah, Dr. Ravi.
Thank you for bringing this up as a former member of the Audit Committee. I think we need to be careful about membership in the Audit Committee because it has a very different role in our district compared to some of the other committees that we have. As an Audit Committee, it's really purpose, in the way we adjusted the charter last year, was to really focus on auditing the district and making, and also, helping support the internal auditor. So in terms of opening up to employees or recent employees, having someone on the committee that's going to be supporting the internal auditor who may be auditing their department or have recently done so, auditing the district and its finances and the details of where the money is going, and working with our external auditors. I think we need to be cautious in terms of how we open up membership if we decide to do so. But I agree. I think one of the goals last year when we created the Budget Advisory Committee, we also updated the charter of the Audit Committee to really reduce and limit the scope, to really focus the scope, let's say, on really auditing functions and working with the internal auditor and working with external auditor and meeting less frequently on a quarterly basis, I think is what we had recommended last year. So I'm not sure if that was implemented by the Audit Committee and whether that reduced and focused scope of work that again really focuses this work on pure auditing functions has really come to fruition to be able to find folks from our community who are looking to play that role to help support our district.
Okay. Yeah, so the suggestion would be to lift the conflict of interest if you'd worked in the district for 2 years, because the version that's here isn't redlined, so I just wanted to make sure where it is in the document, that I can see anyway.
Yeah, Ms. Grijalva, I did not redline anything because there really wasn't like an audit committee proposal because they couldn't vote to even do it. And
Right.
I didn't want to presume that. I want to take direction from the board, or if the audit committee does have a vote on this, then obviously I would help Dr. Kelly bring it forward.
So would the suggestion be to change A, or is there more than one area where the suggestion would be to change?
I have to pull it up. Oh, let me see.
I think it's anyone who within the last 2 years has been an employee of TUSD or sold goods or services to TUSD.
That was the one that Dr. Kelly thought could be a barrier to getting applicants, which is why I at least bring it up here on his behalf.
Okay. Do you have thoughts specifically, Dr. Ravi, about A on page 1?
I'm not sure.
Obviously, well, I guess what Mr. Ross is saying is that seems to be the one issue that comes up more often when they are identifying possible members of the audit committee.
Ms. Grijalva, I'm not sure if it's actually come up because there haven't been applicants. Dr. Kelly's statement to me was he may have people he could recruit, but that's a barrier. He didn't give me any specific names. He just was looking for ways, and if there are other ideas that the board has to get applicants in, he's looking for that assistance. But that was one that he specifically mentioned to me, was that perhaps he could go looking for people that have knowledge of the district, recent knowledge of the district, that could be helpful to the committee.
President Grijalva?
Yeah, Dr. Ravi.
Ms. Counts was on the audit committee as a board liaison when I was on there. I wonder if she has any thoughts.
Ms. Counts?
I'm sorry, I don't have any feedback right now.
Did you have an issue when you were on the committee in getting a quorum?
Not when I was on the committee, but that was quite a while ago. It was about 2 years ago.
Right. And are they still meeting virtually or trying to meet virtually?
Yes, they're meeting virtually.
Okay. Yeah, Dr. Ravi, go ahead.
Yeah, and looking at A, I don't think there'll be significant material risk to the district or to the committee by removing that. I don't think there'll be much going on. I think as long as is there somewhere else that says someone who's not a current TUSD employee or selling goods or services to TUSD? Or we need to just modify it to say that if you've left TUSD or no longer selling goods and services, that you're not eligible for service as a member of the audit committee.
Like my assumption would be somewhere in here there's another conflict that says you obviously cannot offer goods and services to the district and be a member of the audit committee currently, like offering services or a current employee.
I would say that would be an actual legal conflict.
Right.
Not necessary to put in the charter. This is these provisions are in addition to these are kind of enhancements to the statutory conflict of interest.
Okay. Well, perhaps it would be helpful to get. I mean, I want to understand if this change is going to be significant enough in order to make a difference. And then they couldn't take any formal action because they didn't have a quorum, but I'm just wondering.
Ms. Grijalva,
Dr. Ravi.
If you don't mind, I'll make a motion to adjust to charter page 1, part A on membership, to change that to currently TUSD employees or selling goods or services to TUSD currently as opposed to within the last 2 years.
Is that language acceptable, Mr. Ross?
Yeah, that works.
Do you want a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? And then, Mr. Ross, if you could just forward the changes to the audit committee and see if that is what they intended even though they couldn't officially take action?
I will do that. Their next scheduled meeting is August, unless people apply for the vacant positions, in which case they may meet to review applications.
Okay.
The other thing that Dr. Kelly did ask for was any other ideas the board might have in generating candidates for membership.
Okay. And I think we could forward those to Dr. Trujillo.
So we have a motion and a second. Hasn't
Yeah.
been voted on.
No, it hasn't been voted on yet.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, item passes unanimously. All right.
President Grijalva?
Yes.
I guess to the second
Dr.
question, I think we need more information to know like where recruitment has been happening. You know, how has members of the audit committee and district leadership been recruiting members for the audit committee, and you know, so we don't reinvent the wheel to find folks to join.
So I know Dr. Kelly himself has been trying to find folks. The other effort is posting it on the board's website.
Right.
I'm not familiar with anybody else going out and trying to get interest from folks.
Right, you know, an hour spent calling CFOs of nonprofit organizations around Tucson, you know, it might be worth a while to see if anybody's interested in joining. There's a lot of other, I mean, in terms of an audit committee, this is, now we've changed the audit committee to be really a true audit committee function. So having someone with the financial background and experience is going to be really important to success. So just looking around, you know, the community is a small community, you know, who has the financial background, who are the CFOs of organizations and auditors of organizations. There's private auditors to see if there's any junior member of their team that is looking to get more experience and support the community. So those would be where I would recommend, you know, putting some time and attention to.
Okay. All right. Now we are on 8.2. TUSD strategic plan draft. Dr. Trujillo.
Well, I haven't done this in a few years.
I was just going to say, were you sick of sitting?
And I think this is also going to be the last meeting where we invoke the next slide. Next slide, because the clicker will be making its reappearance after several years, right, Jean, at our next meeting, as we now have presenters coming back in person. Well, thank you, President Grijalva, members of the governing board, and all of you watching out in the public. A couple of notes before we begin this sort of brief overview of where we're at in the strategic planning process. We agendize this as study action. We're not asking for any action tonight. This is the first of two presentations, okay? This is meant to be just a general overview of the first part, which is the main framework of a prospective strategic plan. Our plan is to be back here June 24th with a fully developed data dashboard that will identify all of these strategic initiatives around the goals that you're going to see tonight, with identified metrics and key performance indicators. And that will be the night that we're asking for a vote. So tonight is just a general overview of the framework, a prospective mission, a prospective vision, some identified strategic areas of focus and priorities, and some prospective organizational values that we really think we could rally around and that we can take as an opportunity to cast a new vision for the Tucson Unified School District. With that, next slide. A little bit about the process. We're going to be talking about the process tonight. We're going to be talking about some of the committee's work. We'll talk about the time that's been invested in this process, the mechanisms that we've got available for community feedback throughout the 2-year process now that we have been involved in for this strategic plan. All right. In terms of the process, this is a culmination of a couple of years of work. We put together a very, very diverse community, representative of the entirety of the TUSD universe, whether classroom teachers or site administrators, district office administrators. We've had some community stakeholders weighing in. I've been able to conduct a series of virtual forums and in-person forums that have been able to engage community partners and leaders, and the in-person forums where we've been able to draw in 3 distinct areas of the district, just members of the community at large, allowing them to weigh in. We've had an absolutely wonderful facilitator in Dr. Connie Kam that's helped us move this work forward. And we have a strategic planning link that allows for any member of the community to give us feedback as this strategic plan draft is available for the public to view. We've been receiving some great comments, and at the end of this presentation, towards the end, we'll show you just kind of a brief overview of some of the feedback that we've received now. This began in the spring of 2020. I remember being in this room, I think it was like March 9th of 2020, and we had this great meal, and we had all these community partners, and we were laying out the work, and then bam, March 16th, 2020 hit. Everything shut down. But we have carried this work forward because we didn't want to lose 2 years. And we have done some great work across the last couple of years with the committees that I talked about, with the stakeholders that I talked about. We've been able to gauge our principals, almost 100 of them, through 2 virtual sessions. We've been able to engage our community. I've done an in-person session, and I've done 3 of these strategic planning sessions and we hit Saguaro, we hit Catalina, we did another one out at, we've done some work virtually as well. And we've also got, like I mentioned in the previous slide, we've also got the strategic plan draft available for public comment at any point. So we've put a lot of time in here, 22 meetings, some full day meetings across 12 full days when you add it all up to be able to come up and create what we think could be a comprehensive vision to move this amazing district forward. Next. So when we talk about a draft, we're talking about any strategic plan has got to begin with a vision. Why are we here? And what do we see ourselves accomplishing? And through the community feedback that we've received in the work of our committee, inspiring a diverse community to connect, learn, and innovate to lead for a better world. In short, we have the vision of an organization and a district where every single employee, every single student, every single stakeholder has one singular vision. The mission of the Tucson Unified School District is to create a better world. That's our vision. We want students to connect. We want students to connect not just digitally, but we want them to connect with their respective school communities and build those relationships. So that's the vision, which leads into the mission of a community that prepares all students to become responsible, ethical, and engaged global citizens by doing it strategically, by creating a relevant and dynamic, joyful educational experience that embraces cultural diversity. And the key words here, engaged global citizens, ethical, responsible. It's a new world here in 2022. Our students have to be global citizens, not just in the digital sense, but in the relational sense as well, in the economic sense, and in a world that they're going to inhabit the next 20 or 30 years. They're going to inhabit a workplace and an economy that features jobs that don't even exist yet, that are going to require some skill sets that haven't necessarily been emphasized to the extent that they should in this new 21st century landscape. Skill sets like creativity, innovation, design, collaboration, those interpersonal skill sets that allow students to thrive as team leaders and team members, the innovation, the motivation to create projects and communicate content, topics, and ideas across a variety of different platforms. That's what it means to be an engaged global citizen. We also see the embrace of cultural diversity. And that is so important because that's also a part of being a 21st century global citizen. Embracing and celebrating the fact that we live in the most pluralistic society on earth, where a variety of viewpoints, opinions, thoughts should be welcomed and should be also a part of any decision-making process. We'll see a little bit later on in this plan. So when we talked about organizational values and behaviors that we don't just want to talk about, but we really want to live, and we want to live not just on paper, but we want them to be highly visible when you walk through our campuses, when you visit our classrooms, when you watch a governing board meeting, when you look at a budget. We want our budget to embody these values. When you look at our hiring decisions, when you look at the way that we engage families and communities, we want to really memorialize this work in excellence, innovation, integrity, diversity, caring community. We want to be exceptional. We want to be excellent in all areas of operation with this district, starting in the classroom. We want to be excellent with instruction. We want to be excellent with engagement for this community. We want to be excellent for opportunities for professional growth and programs for kids. We want to be innovative. We want an organization that's not afraid to create and innovate in this dynamic, changing environment. We saw that with the pandemic, just how dynamically changing the environment is, but just the nature of living in 2022 in a world that's essentially flat, where any young person around the world has the vehicle to create content, to create an opportunity to start a new business, to create a new train of thought, to create new projects, to collaborate with other young people across several continents at the same time. That requires an embrace of innovation that we've got to see from the classroom all the way through the organization. Making sure that our students aren't afraid to be creative, to be curious, to be dynamic, to be bold. It's going to require a new level of instruction that's going to require a more rigorous level of critical thinking than we have previously. Acting with integrity in everything we do goes without saying, and embracing diversity. And I want to take a moment not just to talk about cultural diversity. Yes, the Tucson Unified School District is one of the most culturally and ethnically diverse districts in the state of Arizona, but it's also one of the most academically diverse. We serve a district that has just shy of 7,000 students with disabilities, one of the largest ex-ed programs in the state, with also a district that serves one of the largest gifted and talented populations in the state, in the same district. We have one of the largest refugee populations, one of the largest English language learner populations, and as I mentioned during an earlier part of the agenda, we have just under 7,000 students enrolled in CTE courses across the district. So we have a very, very academically diverse district, and we have a responsibility to celebrate that diversity as well, which should be noted in the programmatic decisions that we make and the access that we provide. And lastly, we want to be a caring community that emphasizes the importance of relationships. Student to teacher, teacher to teacher, administrator to teacher, employee to employee, leadership to leadership. Being a caring community that emphasizes the importance of relationships, interpersonal skills, great communication, and creating campus and work environments that value our students, our parents, and our employees everywhere across the district. So that leads us to strategic goal number 1 and the absolute most important: learning experience that ensure academic growth and promote culturally relevant learning, but inspire innovation, collaboration, and critical thinking. 3 huge skills that are going to be needed in a mid-21st century world. 20 years ago, when I began my, well, a little more than 20 years, when I began my teaching journey, back in 1998, serving in the Peoria Unified School District, if you would have told me that in the year 2022, there was going to be something called a social media influencer, and it was going to make 6 figures, I would say, what's social media, right? So we have to understand that the jobs of the future are going to require our students to be exceptional critical thinkers. They're going to have to be exceptional collaborators. They're going to have to be bold. They're going to have to be dynamic. And you get there through a level of instruction that pushes rigor and that pushes student-to-student collaboration in a whole new way. When you talk about future-focused learning, I think it was Dr. Shah that talked about a visit to Mary Bell McCorkle. That's the kind of learning experience that we need to have in every single classroom across the district. Very, very high levels of student-to-student collaboration, of application, students applying their learning through a variety of projects, and higher levels of rigor in the learning activities that are being asked of the students. Next. This goes without saying, when we talk about being a caring community, that goes hand in hand with prioritizing social and emotional well-being. We know that our students come to us with all kinds of outside the classroom challenges, not just economically, but emotionally as well. And we want to be a place, we want to be a culture of caring for our students where we nurture relationships, self-awareness, inclusion, and resilience. We have seen this governing board take action for a new curriculum for socio-emotional learning that's going to be implemented next year. That's a giant first step. and making sure that socio-emotional learning is part of the school day. It's not something you receive when you make a bad decision as a student and you have to see the social worker because you violated the student code of conduct, or you only see your counselor when you're engaged in poor decision making or absenteeism. But now, making sure that socio-emotional learning is a structured learning experience and program that we implement across the district. Equity, diversity, inclusion, making sure that this is a commitment that resonates throughout our organization, and really focusing in and establishing an equity framework for decision making at all levels of the organization that at the end of the day results in better instruction and higher quality learning experiences for students, promotes integration in our workforce and with our student body, and affirms the cultural backgrounds and belief systems of all of our stakeholders. We want to make sure that all of our stakeholders, especially in key decision-making processes, have a seat at the table, feel valued, and feel heard. Professional growth. What we know about teacher, and not just teacher, but employee retention, is our employees not necessarily are looking for compensation. Compensation is a big piece of employee retention, don't get me wrong, but they also want to feel valued, they want to feel successful, they want to feel that their work validates their decision to come work here at TUSD, and it's given them the tools that they need to be successful. And that's where professional learning and growth comes in. We want to create a culture of professional learning where every single employee, teacher, bus driver, food service, administrator, counselor, views professional learning as lifelong learning, feels that professional growth honors a commitment to lifelong learning, and that professional growth gives everybody an opportunity to lead, design, and contribute to that overall vision that we talked about, making a better world through our work here at TUSD. Leveraging our community strength. One of the things that we've noted in the last 2 years with the pandemic is you don't realize how much the community contributes to TUSD through all the partnerships and all the institutions, whether it's U of A or Pima Community College, or our partnerships with Youth on Their Own or Boys to Men or Higher Ground. But when all that goes silent and you're on your own for 2 years, it reawakens the appreciation and the need and the value that we have for leveraging our community partnerships and expanding them, because they all believe in TUSD, and we need to really not just build new meaningful relationships, but strengthen the existing partnerships that we have now. And optimizing our resources. This is something I think I've spoken with our board members in numerous budget agenda meetings. When we come with a budget, it has to be a budget that's aligned to a set of structured priorities around a larger mission and vision. So every expenditure decision that we make, every single budgetary proposal that the administration comes in front of this board with is tied to one of these strategic goals and priorities and reflective of this work. And that's where we will be not just with the financial end of things, but aligning policies and human resources and information technology, school safety department, curriculum and instruction, so that every single house of the district's operational and leadership wing also optimizes its resources and makes decisions that are aligned to this perspective framework. A little bit about the initial community input. You can just see some of the key words that came up about what our community members liked about the plan. A lot about diversity, a lot about being student-centered, student diversity, staff growth, and some opportunities where maybe some additional focus areas where our community input noted we probably want to have a greater emphasis. And you can see some of the general ratings here, of course, the orange and the dark red, favorable views of what we've been receiving online. And then, of course, we see the blue at the lower end of the spectrum, employees that some of the feedback that would like us to make some more changes. I will say that a lot of the feedback that we've received from online has been very, very positive. Even the critiques have been opportunities for us to strengthen this proposal. And with that, I will turn it over to this board for just some general questions and feedback understanding that the how we're going to get there and what specific metrics we've identified to measure is forthcoming on June 24th.
Okay, board members, questions?
Yes, I have
Ms.
questions.
Lynn-Rose.
Thank you, Ms. Grijalva. Dr. Trujillo, so I'm familiar with working on strategic plans. In fact, professionally, I'm working on one right now at my own job, so sort of knee deep in this sort of thing. So a couple of questions, and maybe I missed it at the beginning, so my apologies. Is this like a 3 to 5 year plan? Are we doing 5 to 10? What are we?
This will end up being a 5-year plan.
5-year
Yes.
plan. Okay, and and I did attend one of the listening sessions at Pueblo High School, which I thought was it was a really good session. We had some really, I think, engaging parents and people who really want to see the district succeed. So I guess now you can tell us, what are your next steps for this after the comment public period?
Well, the next steps are to gather all of the public feedback, come back on the 24th, present it in a detailed way, and then to come back with fully developed initiatives with action plans and key performance indicators on how we're going to measure the actions that we take for success that are going to be aligned to these strategic priorities. This is where you're going to see the meat of the plan, from our action plan to dramatically expand career and technical education programming, to an expansion of the arts, to the shift towards project-based learning and all the professional learning that's going to be involved in that. You're going to see all of those action plans on the 24th, broken down into action steps and tasks in a dashboard format that is also going to be featuring a timeline across the next 5 years on how this work not only is going to get done, but how it's going to get measured for success.
When was the last time the district did a strategic plan?
The strategic plan, 2014, was in effect from 2014 to 2019.
Okay. So I guess I not necessarily have a question, but just more of a comment that when we're putting this together for the public, that we have a matrix that is understandable, because I think sometimes members of the public, they look at this, they're like, oh, I don't know what this means. You know, it can feel intimidating. So I think if we can, and I think we've done pretty well, you know, in the last year. So I think COVID has kind of taught us, like, this is how we need to message the public. So I really implore that any type of matrix we have is understandable, it's readable, and somebody can ask one of us as a board or come to you or any of the assistant superintendents and say, what does this mean, without perhaps feeling, you know, that they feel silly. Because I've had personal people in my life come to me and say, well, explain to me the COVID, you know, the matrix, and what's this mean. So I just want to make sure we're keeping that in mind.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
And I just wanted to note that we should have been in the process of revising our strategic plan, but Dr. Trujillo didn't have a board that was as supportive of strategic planning. So I think that, and then right when we were going to start getting into this process, COVID. So I think that derailed some of it. And so I just sort of wanted to explain, because there just seemed to be this gap that was completely unintentional on your part or this current board. Dr. Robbie, go ahead.
Thank you, President Grijalva, and thank you for this presentation tonight. You know, the language, the concepts are all really meaningful to what we want to accomplish together as a district, and I'm really excited this summer to have the leadership come back with the dashboard metrics, because my concern whenever we do a strategic plan is it's done, now it sits on a shelf gathering dust, but I think the dashboard metrics and coming to those regularly and seeing how we're making progress or where we're not making progress so that we can make changes is going to be really pivotal for us to really keep the eye on the ball and for us to succeed in making changes that are going to truly revolutionize this district. Because, you know, this region in Pima County and Tucson, it's not going to succeed if TUSD isn't successful. And this is more than just the small group of us here in this room. It's more than just the 40 plus thousand students and their families that we have. This is affecting our entire region. And so it's going to be really pivotal for the whole community to come together to help meet those dashboard metrics, to get us to a better place, to really get these goals achieved, which is going to make a huge difference for the region.
I will close by saying, and you've heard me cover this in our forums, that we are very, very realistic about the significant challenges that COVID has presented over the last 2 years. But we're also optimistic about the opportunities that the pandemic has presented, largely that we are now a one-to-one district. We have eradicated the digital divide. If you would have asked me at the beginning of my superintendency that 5 years in, there would be zero digital divide in TUSD, I would have said, you're absolutely nuts. If you would have asked me at the beginning of my superintendency that I would be walking through the majority of classrooms in this district and see teachers interacting in a meaningful way with smartboards and Chromebooks, I would have said, you're crazy, because we saw that technological resistance at the beginning. So we have these tremendous opportunities to pivot towards the kind of instruction that we're talking about, that what we see at Maribel McCorkle Academy, the kind of learning experiences we need to be providing our students so that they're able to be fully developed as globally engaged citizens when they graduate from us. So we're looking forward to coming back on the 24th and having that more robust discussion about the how we're going to get there and how we're going to measure it.
When is that happening?
The June 24th governing board meeting.
It's on the 14th?
June 14th, you mean?
June 14th?
I'm sorry, the second board meeting in June. Am I
June
off?
28th. Okay.
28th.
28th.
Yeah,
Okay.
28th.
Have any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now you may go back and sit down.
I know. Now we're on 8.3, TUSD, a budget advisory committee, priorities for school year 22-23. Dr. Trujillo.
Yes, President Grijalva, members of the governing board. As one of your board-appointed committees, the charge of the Budget Advisory Committee, of course, is to come back on a yearly basis and talk about its areas of focus heading into the new fiscal year. We have our governing board representative here to take us through the proposed areas of focus for FY23. Dr. Shaw.
I've never been up to the dais to present, may I?
Please.
Yeah, sure. At the
It's a long
podium.
walk.
Everybody needs their 15 minutes.
Well, thank you, President Grijalva and Dr. Trio and the
Is
remaining
it
members of the
intimidating
governing
over
board.
there? Is it stressful?
No, I'm really excited about bringing the Budget Advisory Committee back to the governing board. I think it was really successful in its first year. We were able to cover a number of important topics affecting the district's finances and priorities, and really have some good conversations and hopefully give some good feedback to the governing board about how to set priorities, how to really use the resources we have in the district in an appropriate way. So next slide, please. So again, our Budget Advisory Committee was approved last year in the winter. And the governing board set 4 priorities for the Budget Advisory Committee for this past school year, which the Budget Advisory Committee, or BAC, reviewed. And the goals are to really support the governing board on these bigger topic issues, distill it down with the staff, with all the different members that we had in the Budget Advisory Committee, so that we can understand the issue, get some community feedback between meetings if the community wanted to give feedback, and really weigh some of the pros and cons and see how some of the recommendations can be implemented by the full governing board and the finance team. Next slide. So tonight we're going to review a proposal for the next year. We are still working with the previous membership to see who is willing to stay on. Of course, our former chair of the BAC, Ricky Hernandez, is now in our staff leadership role, and I imagine he'll be the staff liaison to this BAC in the year ahead. So we'll be looking for a new chair as a Budget Advisory Committee comes back together. But we had community members, we had political leaders, past and current. We had principals and union representatives and business representatives. We had a really great subsection and cross-section, rather, of our community last year to really help us bring different perspectives to these discussions. And I hope that we'll have a similar cross-section going into the next back cycle. The proposal is to review, make any changes to, and approve the priority areas for the next year tonight, if the governing board decides to do so. Finalize the membership of the Budget Advisory Committee. That might need to come back to the board for final approval, but make sure that new members have the school training and financing that they need to be effective going forward. And then start in July, start a little earlier to get some of the open meeting law training and some of the other parameters in place for the year ahead. Next slide. And so we hope the format will be similar to the prior year, which those of us who discussed it thought worked really well, where we discuss one issue in one meeting. We have the staff present information about it. A lot of questions are asked, and we're asking for more information going into the second meeting. And so that in the second meeting, we can get community feedback between meetings. We can get questions answered by staff, review the issue again with the new information, and then make some recommendations for the governing board to implement it when the back has its final report. And so the next couple of slides, I think, goes into the next couple of meetings where we have Part A and Part B of the different priority areas in each of the meetings so that each item is addressed at least twice. Our proposal tonight actually has one item to be addressed 3 times because it's such a big item that we want to make sure the back has enough time and the staff has enough time to really fully vet the item effectively. And this takes us through to January, where they would review the last item for the second time and make the final summary of recommendations for the governing board to review. Next slide. And then in February and March of next year, we can even think about 2023, the governing board reviewing the priority areas, the recommendations from the back that incorporates the community feedback and recommendations for the governing board to then work with staff to implement and really see how that's going to manifest in future years' budgets and priorities. So as we set priority areas, we think about, what are good priority areas? They should be intentional and specific. We're not trying to get too broad so that we can actually cover a topic, and we don't want to get too narrow so that it's actually relevant use of time on a bigger topic. Something that the back can review in a couple of hours, and we're usually within 2 meetings. We do have a recommendation for one for 3 meetings, and get some relevant data and information so that it's not just flying from the seat of our pants, but really ask some poignant questions, ask for information. The staff can provide information, the community can provide information, and really have some data to really review for that topic. And of course, topics with implications for success for our district, both in the medium and long term. So tonight, these are the 4 proposed priority areas. This can be modified, of course, and changed, removed, and reset for other areas. These are the 4 areas that we're coming to tonight for approval from the board for set as a priority areas. The first one, really takes in some feedback that we received as a governing board last year, especially in the spring and summer, as we received a lot of feedback from the community about literacy and language proficiency, libraries and librarians, and other things. So we made this topic a little broader to incorporate that feedback, but really talk more generally about literacy and language proficiency. And the question to answer here, how can TUSD use best practices and available data and evidence to address reading and writing proficiency, especially for students coming from socioeconomic distressed families and racial minorities, including reviewing the role of librarians, MTSS coordinators, and other programs and services. The second priority area is a much broader topic, and we propose having 3 meetings, Part A, B, and C, for this topic, really looking at the ESSER-funded positions. And the question to ask is which positions funded through ESSER and TUSD are the highest priority to sustain after ESSER funding is no longer available, and what sources of funding available to support these positions in the short and what sources of funding are available to support these positions in the short and medium terms. So we know a lot of our COVID relief or ESSER funding is expiring next year and the year after in 23 and 24. We have a lot of positions that we have in our district that are ESSER funded. So taking a really deep dive into those positions, figuring out, especially building on the information from the first priority area of approved literacy and language proficiency, we know some of those positions are ESSER funded, and looking at other positions in the psychosocial services and math interventions, health interventions, and others, and really seeing which ones have the most evidence to try to keep, which ones are making the most difference, and what are the sources of funding that are available that can really help us find ways to fund these positions beyond the COVID relief funding. Priority area 3 is looking at TUVA sustainability. And the question here is, what is the role of virtual learning in the Tucson region? And how should TUSD best meet this need, both in terms of academic options for students and financial sustainability? I've been really thrilled, and I think a lot of us have been really thrilled with the success of TUVA this year. But looking and seeing, with a competition in virtual learning space, what have we done and what are we going to be doing next year? And making it the third priority is give a few months of data in terms of enrollment and what it looks like into the next year. And also, seeing how this looks with COVID numbers and what parents and families are choosing for their students for virtual learning versus in-person learning in the next year. This gives the Budget Advisory Committee a chance to look at this data, look at student enrollment, look at competition, look at funding streams, look at how this means for cannibalizing funding in our schools versus our virtual learning, and really weigh that to make some recommendations for a long-term plan for our virtual learning platform. And then the fourth and final priority that is recommended tonight, capital allocations. How can TUSD best organize and fund capital projects in the short and medium terms, setting priorities, timeline, and reviewing budget sources and funding options? We've had some really robust conversations over the last few months about capital improvements and projects, and this gives a chance for the Budget Advisory Committee with our staff to really help us with some direction and some priority setting so that we can come to the table with some good use of the current capital funding as well as the carry forward that we have in capital funds. So these are the four priority areas that are proposed tonight for modification and hopefully approval by the Board of Directors. I believe this is the last slide.
Okay. Any questions, board members?
And I'll take back to my seat and can be part of the board discussion on this.
Any from Ms. Counts or Ms. Shaw?
Ms. Grijalva?
Yes. Ms. Counts?
Ms. Shaw.
Ms. Shaw, sorry.
Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Shaw, for your presentation. One of the priorities I would like this committee to discuss is to get us ahead of the legal requirement to bring everyone up to the $15 an hour before 2025. And also, deal with compression and finding a way that we can pay people competitively, especially for those positions that we have been relying and are still relying on outsourcing. Could we add that as a priority?
Thank you, Ms. Shaw. Dr. Ravi?
So thank you for that suggestion, Ms. Shaw. That was actually a priority this past year, and we had two meetings. The Budget Advisory Committee had two meetings discussing wages in our district, compression, and some other things. And so there were a number of this was already a vetted issue there were a number of recommendations that came out of those meetings that were reviewed by this governing board this past winter.
Remind me of their recommendation, because I believe it was just to stay on the path of 2025. And, from our past meetings, we keep adding one more position here, one more position there, and then we get emails from people who have, for instance, the warehouse workers are upset now because they weren't included in this. And I think it's just going to keep on happening that way. And with the rise of cost of living, even though it's already been discussed last year, it's an ongoing issue, and are we just gonna not think about it, or is there a way that we can tackle that issue head on?
So, Ms. Shaw, my assumption would be that the Budget Advisory Committee forwarded recommendations to administration. We, as a board, can take action however we choose to. But I think what Dr. Ravi's saying is that was something that they discussed and had steps to. Their recommendations are already out there for compensation and compression. Is that correct, Dr. Ravi?
Right, those recommendations were made, and please forgive me, I don't have them all in detail. From my recollection, it was really to focus on compression, and that's what the district and the governing board elected to do this past winter.
So I think the charge is now ours as a board, Ms. Shaw, because they came forward with their recommendations. It's an ongoing issue that we as a board are going to have to address, but I think that these priority areas, they're going to come up with recommendations that come to the board, and then we are the ones that decide what we're going to do with that information, whether we accept the recommendations, whether we enhance them, whether we don't take any action. That's now our charge as a board. Ms. Luna Rose, and then I'll call back on you, Ms. Shaw, or Ms. Counts, if you had anything to add.
Actually, I was just hoping to move the item.
Okay. I'll second for sake of discussion. Did you, Ms. Shaw or Ms. Counts, did you want to add anything else?
Yeah, I'll add about the ESSER-funded positions. I wonder if they could also look into all of the ESSER-funded subscriptions and everything else that we've spent out through ESSER. Are we going to continue some things depending on how often they're used?
Do you have an example? Like the academic supports?
Yeah, I'm thinking
Okay.
about all the subscriptions and things like that.
Okay. Do you, Dr. Ravi? Did you want to?
Defer to the group. We want to make sure that whatever we ask the BAC to do is going to be doable. One thing we learned this past year is to make sure that our charge is very clear. And that there's enough time to do the work. One place that we really struggled, we had ESSER covered positions, but it was too early in the process. We had a lot of unfilled positions, and I think next year is going to be much more relevant. In our discussions, my discussions with Ricky Hernandez, who was a former chair and now our CFO here at TUSD, and one reason why we made it 3 meetings was we think it's going to take that amount of time to really look at that issue. One topic last year that we really struggled as a BAC was DSEG. We asked the BAC to look into DSEG funding and sources of funding and what positions from DSEG were going to be sustained and tax rates and other things. And that was too broad and too early as well at that time. So being really cautious and making sure that we use the time of our staff as well as the volunteer members of our committee really effectively. So, we have ESSER funded positions here. Looking at some subscriptions and other things that are funded through ESSER, can definitely be added to this. But I think just in general, making sure that there's enough time available for the Budget Advisory Committee, the volunteer committee, to have enough meeting time and enough direction and specificity in terms of what we're trying to ask them to look into, and whether they have the expertise as well, to be able to look into subscription services and other things that usually the staff and those who are the end users and the curriculum leaders make those recommendations, for us to know. We know kind of what an MTSS coordinator does as a position, and we know a lot of our psychologists and other folks do on a day-to-day basis, to help support our students. But it might be more difficult to know what one subscription or another subscription service is really going to do as a budget advisory committee or even as a governing board.
So, Dr. Trujillo, do you have a suggestion? My thought would be Ms. Aranda, curriculum development, that I think it's a legitimate, I agree with Ms. Shaw that we have to look at all of those programs, and if they're funded by ESSER, do we have the funding to continue them? like what was the utilization, what was the success rate, but I agree with Dr. Ravi that perhaps people with curriculum expertise
Sure.
or working with students might be better suited to do that kind of research.
I think that there need to be two categories, okay? So there's a category of electronic platforms that are purely for access. For example, Canvas. There's not necessarily a metric or a performance requirement of the program. It just provides access. So Canvas is the platform that allows all of the remote learning and everything. And then you have those sort of performance-based or those performance-driven programs like an IXL. So I think that we can look at everything that we're funding through ESSER, and we look at those two categories. We look at what are the programs that are purely for access, what are the programs that actually have student performance attached to them. And then returning to the positions, I think it's also, which I think, I was going to chime in and say, I do think that needs to be the priority. Like if there's one area to look at first, just because of the huge, colossal budgetary impact in fiscal year 25, we're going to need as much time as possible to figure out how many of those positions could be absorbed by other funding sources, how many of them are vacant and could be soaked up by the budget, and then sadly, how many are just kind of still there that we're going to have to deal with, right, through a potential DIT. So I think that, to me, is probably going to be the priority, but absolutely getting curriculum involved and looking at those two types of
and
programs.
I think Ms. Shaw was very specific about the subscription ones.
The
So I don't know if
subscription
it's
runs that are tied to
I don't know.
student performance.
Right.
Okay.
Is that correct, Ms. Shaw? Like because I've heard her talk about them when they're approved. It's like she's asking a lot of questions about how are we going to assess whether they've been successful or not. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. But really, anything ESSER related that we paid for that is potentially still ongoing.
Okay.
So, President Grijalva, I think
Yes.
what I'm hearing in
Dr.
feedback, and
Ravi.
Dr. Trujillo, I think you're getting some board feedback that sometime in the next academic year, we'd like to hear about some of the other sources of what we've used ESSER funding for and what successes that we've had from it, like the subscription services and other things that we've approved for ESSER funding.
Okay, so specifically with the charge for, with this item, do we have any other feedback? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, item passes unanimously. Now we're on study, and thank you, Dr. Ravi, for the presentation.
Well,
Okay.
thank you, and thank you to Mr. Hernandez and Dr. Trujillo and all the others who made some great suggestions and all the feedback from last year and all those who pushed online last year and then called to the audiences about some issues. I think we're going to have a really a positive year and some great discussions.
Good, great. We look forward to updates. 9.1, Employee Benefits Update, School Year 22-23. Dr. Trujillo.
Yes, President Grijalva, board members. At the request of two of our board members at the last meeting, I've asked Renee Heuser to come and brief the governing board on some upcoming prospective changes to our benefits plan.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Heuser?
Thank you. President Grijalva, members of the board, Dr. Trujillo. Just wanted to give you a brief update. Sorry. Our EBT, Employee Benefits Trust Board, met on May the 2nd. And for the first time ever, we had quite a few call to the audience letters. And it was all around the exclusionary language around gender affirming care. It was brought to our attention at that point, and we wanted to look into that. We checked with UMR, and as the letters had indicated.
And UMR is?
Oh, I apologize.
I know. It's
UMR is our healthcare provider.
Thank you.
They confirmed that we are excluding gender affirming care and mental health. We also checked with our pharmaceutical provider, and we have no exclusions on that plan at all. After hearing this, the Employee Benefits Trust Board typically would have recessed until fall. Their work for this year has been done, but they wanted to come back together and do a special meeting in June we've asked UMR, our healthcare provider, to come to that meeting and bring us some suggestions for language that we could put in lieu of the exclusionary language that exists. We've also asked CBiz, who is our benefits consultant, to come in and provide some actuarial projections that could talk about if we remove that exclusionary language, what would that do to the plan costs going forward. And so the EBT is going to meet on June 6th and review all this information and provide to the governing board a recommendation on June 14th on how they believe that we should move forward with that plan. So I know there was some concerns with the board, and I wanted to bring that forward, let everybody know that there is work going on in the background, quite a bit of work. People are gathering information to bring back to this board.
Okay. Thank you, board members. Any questions? All right. We look forward to that. Thank
Say
you.
One,
I'm
one
sorry,
thing
Dr.
from
Robbie.
research, and thank you, Ms. Posey, for doing that about the 30-day that doesn't exist. And that was one question that we were having in conversations and making sure that any decisions could be implemented in a timely manner so that individuals who are looking to get gender-affirming care or gender-affirming procedures this summer before the school year starts should be able to still be able to do that. And so there isn't a 30-day waiting period for any changes to our plan, is what our research indicated. And so we were concerned of whether we had to make a decision today to be in effect by July 1st, but our timeline should be intact for us to be able to come back and review the recommendations of the EBT so that we can make sure that all of our employees, including our trans employees, know that they're valued and we're doing what we can to make sure they can get the health care that they need and deserve.
And thank you. And then you also mentioned mental health.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes, so we'll be looking at both areas for the exclusions. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Because there is a federal mental health parity and addiction equity act, and it demands like mental health be treated equally with physical health. And so we at the Board of Supervisors just added that because that was something also that for whatever reason was listed as exclusionary. And it was one of those things until someone brings it up, you don't even realize that that's the situation. And so it sounds like that's the same thing that happened here in Tucson Unified. So I'm glad we're going to look at that as well.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. 9.2 fiscal year 22 expenditure update. Dr. Trujillo.
Yes, President Grijalva, members of the board, do believe we have Renee Weatherless on for us for, I think, what's going to be the final time before we turn everything over to Mr. Hernandez.
Not to say we don't want to turn
Not
it
to
over
say
to him,
that
but
we
I'm
don't
going to
enjoy
miss seeing your face.
the exciting budget expenditure updates, but I'd like to welcome Renee Weatherless to give us our expenditure update for April of 22.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Dr. Trujillo, President Grijalva, members of the governing board, and Council Ross. Yes, we are looking at the expenditure updates through the end of April fiscal year 22. If you go ahead and advance to the next slide, we'll pause here for a second because last meeting we brought forth the May revision for fiscal 22, where we did add in that extra carryover from last fiscal year. So those adjustments have been included in this slide. So starting at the top with M&O, you're seeing the adjusted budget is now up to $341 million. And the total spend is still trending as it has been all year long, but you can see the difference there in the balance. So right now the projected balance is at $20.2 million. Previously you were seeing this number creeping up in the 10 million, and the difference there between last month and this month is that adjustment for the May revision. Same thing in capital, except it was about $500,000. It was much less. I will make note also the right-hand column, the pre-encumbrances. All year long, I was tracking just vacancies. Clearly, that number has decreased with each passing month as there's less payroll to be pre-encumbered. But I did want to still show that there are some pre-encumbrances in this number. So April's kind of important because your procurement deadlines were in the beginning and the end of April for all departments and for schools. So that means that we should start seeing open POs start closing. We should see encumbrances start coming down as we prepare for year end. So at this point, that encumbrance number is primarily, the majority of it is salaries and benefits. But for those POs that are outstanding, blanket POs and such, those things will start getting closed between now and June 30. Otherwise, everything else is pretty much trending the same way you've seen it all year long. So if you go to the next slide, the breakout between M&O, DSEG and non-DSEG. We have been reallocating the DSEG dollars to be spent. We're still projecting that money to be spent by the end of June 30th. So that has not changed much. If you go to the next slide, that is looking at the year-to-date numbers. This is purely informational, broken out by the expenditure type and funding sources. Next slide, and one more, I believe. Yes, so fund balances here. What we've been looking at is the far right-hand column, just kind of projecting where our revenues would be, what we're trending for expenses, and to see if we're going to see any significant negative balances. This one, you're seeing one on the JTED line. I will just point out that with JTED funding, it's changed a little bit in this fiscal year, and we're moving toward a reimbursement model. So we're actually spending cash and then getting reimbursed from JTED. So don't be alarmed that there's a negative number there. It's just a timing variance. Otherwise, everything else is looking pretty good. Go ahead and advance to the next slide. And we're going to look at classroom spending. You've been seeing this number ticking up with every passing month. The instruction number alone right now with year-to-date is at 55.5%. Which is the highest it's ever been since we've started tracking this, as well as the subtotal, including student support and instructional support. So even if you look to the far right column, when we take into account some timing of when administrative expenses get paid, et cetera, it's still looking good at 54.2. So if we did end the year there, it would still be moving in the right direction. As well as monitoring the administrative expenses, because we were wanting to get below 9%, and at this point, it is looking to trend at that level. So the next slide just shows the historical chart for all of the years with the same information I just presented, and that pretty much concludes the presentation. I'll take any questions.
Board member, thank you, Ms. Weatherless. Board members, any questions? Dr. Trujillo, any follow-up?
No follow-up. I just want to emphasize our hallmark achievement has been the growth in instructional spending, and we're proud that we have achieved a 20-year high, so we're going to continue that great work.
Okay, thank you.
It's our last time we're having Ms. Weatherless with us,
yes,
right?
Ms. Weatherless, I believe this is your last time with us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for all you've done for our district.
Yes.
Renee, yeah.
Renee, I want to take a moment also to thank you for the incredible years of service. You brought a new level of transparency, accessibility, and visibility to finance for our principals, for our community at large, for the city, and for this governing board. So I want to wish you all the best there. You're out in my country, right? I'm pretty close to Avondale, and I hope that your new role's off to a great start. And Mr. Hernandez has some big shoes to fill.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for everything, Miss Weatherless. Whenever you're down here and want to listen to some mariachi music and stuff, I got a hookup, so we can hang out.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. Okay. Now we're moving on. Are we on the next item? That was a really fast update. I was just stretching for a moment.
Fast update.
So now we're on 9.3, TUSD Summer School Planning Update.
Yes, so I'd like to welcome our summer school team, our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, our Regional Assistant Superintendent, Mr. Lambert, Assistant Sup, Mrs. Flory Hewitt, and our Senior Director for Professional Development and Curriculum, Heidi Aranda. It's kind of we put together this team. They're from 3 different areas, but they make summer school stand up, and we are proud that we have crossed over the 9,200 student enrollment. So the number in the slide is old. We crossed the 9,000 barrier. Our goal is to get 10,000 and match what we did last year. So to give us a brief update is Ms. Aranda. Take it away.
And I think the numbers are still going to go up.
Oh,
yes, I'm still getting, emails about, are you going to sign your child up? I'm just waiting to see
I'm
what those
still
grades
getting
look like.
emails from coordinators saying, I think I need another teacher. Our numbers keep
Those are
rising.
good. Those are good problems to have. But
They are.
still, yeah.
I will ask Heidi, as part of this update, if you can update our board members as to when parents can expect to actually see, this is my child's teacher, this is the schedule, this is the class, as I know our board members have received a couple of inquiries. Okay?
Okay, great. All right. Good evening, President Grijalva, governing board members, Dr. Trujillo, and legal counsel. Tonight we will be sharing an update on our 2022 summer experience. Next slide. As you can see from this graph, last year we tripled our enrollment in summer experience. And this year we have more than doubled our 1920 numbers. And as of today, about 4 o'clock, we have 9,422 students. So we're well on our way to that 10,000 mark. I did want to just mention that the 2021 numbers include also our July Jumpstart program that we had last year, that we don't have this coming school year. July was a very difficult month to have transportation in full swing, food services, and it impacted our ability to really start the school year off smoothly. So there are some Jumpstart programs offered in June, but we are not offering the July. So I do expect the numbers to be a little bit lower than 13,000, but still, we expect to have 10,000 at least. Next slide. So here's a breakdown of our enrollment by school type. Our current fifth graders are represented in our middle school numbers, or K-8, and our current eighth graders are represented in our high school in Freshman Academy. That's a change from last year. Last year we held on to our fifth graders at the elementary school, but this was an opportunity to kind of have that jumpstart experience and get a taste of middle school. Next slide. So our K-7 sites participate in Full Steam Ahead, a program that offers science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. As well as they receive targeted ELA in math instruction. At the high school level, there's a variety of programs that Brian will address in the next slide. All of our programs provide breakfast and lunch, and at the high school level in the PM session, they also provide dinner. K-7 students are offered transportation, whereas high school students take Suntran, which still is free at this time. Next slide.
Thank you, Heidi. So at the high school, we provide credit recovery, Freshman Academy, which is the bridge for the eighth graders coming in. We also have an AP boot camp, and then at Choya, we have an IB boot camp. Students are given the opportunity to do a credit acceleration as well during summer school at the high school level. So we provide students multiple ways. This is for K-12. We have the online with the COL, as well as for the K-7, we provide those TUVA students the opportunity of summer school as well. And then we also have an XED component run through Mary Meredith.
So there is a buzz of excitement amongst our schools and our teachers right now. During April and May, our teachers receive training on the ELA and math components as well as the STEM training. They have, I'm sorry, next slide. They have a website where they have access to the curriculum for the summer, as well as a team site where teachers collaborate and share ideas. Florrie's holding some of the materials. These materials are arriving at our schools. These are the materials that students will be using in the STEM program. Next slide. All the way through middle school.
It's only for year, well, you and.
So our
Are they
kindergarten
too old for
through
this
7th
fun stuff?
graders.
Oh, 7th grade?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Selfishly
Their,
excited.
their favorite part of the day.
I'm sure.
So we're excited to be partnering again with Camp Invention, who provides us this curriculum for our summer program. And I wanted to share this brief, I think it's a minute video, just to kind of see what our students will be experiencing in that STEM. Oh, you're not able to play the video because it's a PDF. Okay.
Oh, okay.
That's okay. That's all right. We'll provide the link for you to be able to see. But you see the materials, you can tell it's a very hands-on STEM program. So at the conclusion of summer school this year, we will be sending out a survey to our families as well as staff to give us feedback on, everything from registration, the student's experience, and communication to our families. We're working currently with our assessment and evaluation department to finalize those surveys. We, as parents, should be receiving information about their summer assignments, etc. By the end of this week. We've had to wait at K7 for some hubs to be established for Move On Run Reading and other details, so they should be able to send out this week. You got it, so parents should be receiving some kind of communication. And next slide. That concludes our presentation. What questions can I answer?
One of the questions, there was a really cool enrollment event at Pister, and I think Utterback had one similar, car show, all kinds of fun stuff. And I was wondering about what I understood is not every middle school is doing like a jump for their incoming middle schoolers. Not every elementary is doing a kinder intro, like a kinder kind of jump equivalent. And so I was just, and I assume every high school, I think every high school is doing some equivalent of the incoming freshmen. But I'm wondering why not every school is doing something to sort of get your students comfortable with campus, especially kinders. I mean, I'm just thinking as a parent of a promoting fifth grader going into middle school, I think that the school that he's going to is going to have a program, but not every middle school is, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm just wondering why some campuses are and some aren't.
So all incoming sixth graders to middle school do have a program at their
Everybody
middle school.
at their own school.
All middle schools.
Okay, great.
So fifth graders going into sixth grade are all at the middle school in that type of a program.
Perfect.
But not at the kinder level. So it just staffing and space and various reasons, not all sites were able to offer a kinder jumpstart.
Well, I hope that the campuses that are still have capacity for kinders are having one, because I do think that it is huge for a parent of a kindergartner when they're going in, if that sort of soft handoff, you get to meet your teacher, all of that is so important. And I know that some of our schools are smaller, some of them it's depending on when you offer it, if it's right before school starts, that's when a lot of teachers are stressing out because you're like, is my classroom ready? All of those other, I understand all of those factors, but minimally some sort of like, hey, come and hang out on your campus a couple days and get to know where the restrooms are. And I mean, minimally there should be something. And I'm not going to suggest any major like scheduling changes at this point because that would be crazy. But I do think that it's important that there be an expectation that there is something at every school for kids who have never been on that campus to like, don't be afraid.
We could work on that for next year.
Yeah, for sure.
I know that a lot of schools have sort of switched to deciding to offer it. And there's a couple of schools offering it in July using their own funding and at a smaller scale. And many of our schools do come meet your teacher, have beginning of year activities.
Well, and also with social media, we all see what other schools are doing. So I think that that's part of the other problem is, not every school did kind of a big promotion celebration for their kinders. And then you see the little baby kinders in their cap and gown and your child didn't get that. And so they start talking. And then we'll get the emails, comparing. And I know it's not a fair comparison because we know every community is different and every, they might do something that other schools don't do. I've been to a couple of promotions just this year, and they're all totally different. They're all really special, and there's an expectation that that's what's going to happen. But I do think that there has to be something. So kids get to like, this is going to be your classroom. This is your teacher. And I think it's great.
Definitely.
Ms. Grijalva?
Yes, Ms. Monroe.
2 questions, high school related. Dun, sorry. Well, one's kind of more personal, but
I know.
Question. But actually, Mr. Lambert, so you mentioned, or maybe it's Ms. Aranda mentioned that the buses were freed for now. Do we know when that ends?
So transportation is actually working with the city of Tucson on that. That could be something I think the transportation department will be presenting in the future. But that definitely runs through the whole summer.
Okay.
But we are looking, cross our fingers for next year as well.
Okay, great. And then for those parents who are out of town during the first week of like freshman academy and there's a freshman that cannot attend, do they have to be in the whole month of June? Can they start the second week?
It's a great question. So I've already started working with a couple campuses on that. Number one, there's credit that comes with this. So students may not earn the credit because of the amount of time they've missed. However, we still want to give them that opportunity because especially since it's focused 3 weeks on ELA and math, and then we've got that Jumpstart week. The only drawback if you miss more than 3 days, it's that credit that you're losing.
Okay. And that's all I've got. Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Robbie.
Thank you, President Grijalva. A couple questions. So one of them on recruitment. So do you have to be a current TUSD student to enroll in the summer session, or have we tried to see if any of the charter school students or other ones in our area might want to come in for our summer session and then maybe stay on?
So we ask that families enroll in Tucson Unified. So they are going to be an active student with us. So let's say you're an outside parent. We ask you to enroll in TUSD. For the next school year, and then we're easily able to get you enrolled. So it's a great opportunity. We just need you to be a part of our community.
Yep.
Maybe we don't have that requirement so that we can maybe then convince them over the course of a month that they want to be part of ours.
I do, I'm going to push back a little bit on that one because I do think that we're really continue to look for teachers. And if we were to open it up to have free summer school for whoever wants to, we'll get people that are coming from all over the place because every other district, except for maybe one, is charging for summer school. And so they'll take advantage of the free credit that they get here and then they'll go back to their school. So I do think that they should be enrolled in our schools. It's a good incentive.
My second question was speaking about funding. So if I remember correctly, this is ESSER funded right now?
That's correct.
And so with over 9,000 students enrolling, which is I think a lot more than we had forecasted would come in this year, and if that is a trend that continues, what is our sustainability to keep our summer programs functioning in the years to come?
The longstanding traditional funding source pre-ESSER has always been title. So for the ESSER years, we've been able to move the bulk of costs over to ESSER. But what we've seen is exactly what you've said. Our enrollment through the pandemic years has been higher than it's ever been before. When you look at the slide that Heidi showed, our pre-pandemic numbers were nowhere near what they are now. So when we look at what Title used to fund, it used to be a smaller summer school of around 3,000 or 4,000 students. So you're right, we're going to have to figure out what's going to be the capacity now to fund a supersized enrollment for summer school, especially if we're going to keep it free of cost.
Any other questions?
Ms. Grijalva?
Yes, Ms. Shaw.
Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Aranda and Mr. Lambert, for the presentation. Excuse me. When we spoke about summer school several meetings ago, there was talk about a fee associated with credit recovery. Can you give us an update on that? I inquired if we could have like a scholarship for that credit recovery, or if we could just waive that fee altogether. Has there been any move on that?
I can grab that. So there is no fee for any of our students that attend credit recovery. So you are correct. In the past, there used to be a $50 fee for registration. But I can say for the last 2 years, we've been able to waive all students their cost on that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I'm sorry, any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. You didn't want to leave that.
And thanks for thanks for not taking our goodies.
I know. Okay. All right. So that was our last presentation, and we have future meeting dates and agenda items. Anything you wanted to add, Dr. Trujillo, over what you've already added throughout the meeting? Okay. Well,
Ms.
yes.
Sorry.
Ms. Luna Rose.
I just maybe for, obviously for a future meeting, in light of what happened today in Texas, I'm wondering, can we, and I know we kind of do this at the beginning of every year, but I'd really like a detailed safety report for the upcoming school year about what we're doing and if there's any new security measures being implemented or anything thought of. I think that would be, the community. I mean, it's all a buzz right now on social media, and this will be for the next couple months, especially since school's ending. Parents are going to want to know, how's my child's campus going to be safe for next year?
Well, I will say that the timing is terribly tragic, horrific, but our new safety director, he has put together a very comprehensive proposal way before today that we were going to bring forward that's going to talk about some increased security measures, better training, better equipped monitors that we'll fast forward and we'll get in front of the board during the month of June.
Okay.
And I also think it's important for us to go over what the protocols are and maybe look at our policies if anything has to be changed as far as visitors who are disruptive on campus. I think it's important for us to have an idea of and kind of make it public what the consequences are if you disrupt, it is a felony to disrupt the educational in any educational institution. And so I think it's important for us to talk about that as well. Okay. And if there's any need for policy changes, that would be the only time that I think we have to talk about it here at the dais. All right, anything else? Okay, well, enjoy promotions, graduations, have a safe end of school year. Our high school graduations start tomorrow evening and through Thursday, and so go out and support our amazing graduates. Dr. Trujillo, do you know how many graduates we have this year?
Do not have that information readily available.
Send that to us because
We
I
will.
like to talk about it because it's something that we should be very proud of. Okay, congratulations to all of our graduates and those promoting. Have a great evening. Stay safe. Meeting adjourned.